Hi there, I am Aaron, and welcome to the Call to Cinema. I'm joined here today with prolific director and composer Jamie Blanks, who's worked on so many amazing films. My favorite, like one of my favorite slashers of all time, Valentine. Got your start got your Hollywood start with Urban Legend. Did The Long Weekend. Did Storm Warning, one of my most wanted discs, right up there with with Alone in the Dark. It's Storm Warning. That's something that I desperately want. My I think my computer thing turned on. Put it up there. So, Jamie, how's it going?
I'm good, Aaron. How you doing?
I am doing good. I am trying to make my TV. Anything that can go wrong, tap dance through it.
Live television, my friend. We'll struggle through.
But no, it's fantastic to have you on here. We were talking before the video, guys, and that's why we're a couple minutes late because, again, fascinating to talk to Jamie finally. We've chatted, but we haven't actually talked in person, so this is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, it's lovely to be with you, Aaron. I've been watching your channel for months and months now, and we've been talking about having this catch up. So it's great that we finally get to do it.
I'm excited. I mean, like your film, and I told you this before, and I mentioned on the channel. So Valentine was like the movie that came out at a really important time for me because I'm a big movie fan. I'm a big movie buff. I'm an 80s kid, so I'm a slasher buff. And what that means basically is there's a time when there was a lot of meta slashers and stuff going on, but slashers as they were in the 80s, they weren't being made. And then came Valentine, and it was a complete 80s throwback slasher film. And when I say that, I mean that in the highest regard. And I was at a point where I'm like, are we going to see, is slasher dead? Are we going to see this again? And Valentine came, and it truly made me you restored my faith, man.
Oh, I'm glad. Well, it was funny after doing Urban Legend. There was a lot of films made in the wake of Scream that were very meta and very hip and very self-aware. And I thought the only really way to do a slasher film at that point that Valentine came along was to do it as a straight throwback slasher film, just to do it as a pure. It's actually like a slasher giallo kind of hybrid. Valentine.
Yeah, you're a giallo fan too?
Oh, big time, of course. Yeah.
First question then, I got to ask this: favorite giallos? Do you have any?
I have plenty, but I think if I have to pick a favorite giallo, I'd probably go with Deep Red. I think.
I love Deep Red. Well, Deep Red is it's kind of like when you get to like the Friday 13th Part 4, and like, okay, everything that's been good about the other ones is put into this film.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Deep Red is like. Now, for me though, I'm not gonna lie. Tenebrae is my.
Tenebrae is amazing. Yeah, I mean, I have real trouble. People always are asking me, "Well, give us your favorite films. Give us your top 5 favorite films." It excludes too many movies to do that. You know, I find it's way too. I don't like giving top film lists because I love movies for different reasons, and I think you can love all sorts of films equally for totally different reasons. So, yeah, I love Tenebrae. I mean, I've seen them all. I love them all. They're on my shelf here. You know, I come back to them frequently.
And fantastic score. So, like when you're watching like giallos, like the Argentos and the Martinos and stuff like that, you get like a lot of those films, especially Argento, were like really like prevalent with their score.
That's right.
So me and my better half were rewatching actually Storm Warning last night, and one of the things that she noted at the time was that the score was so good.
Oh,
and even before you knew something was going to happen, like the tension was built up, like it was through the score itself. And I said, well, Jamie did score too. So she said, okay. So was that like when you look at some of those films that you've scored? Was any of that sort of an inspiration for you?
Oh yeah, I mean, of course. It's interesting with Storm Warning. I had so much time to score that movie because it doesn't really look like it when you watch the movie, but there's about 900 digital CG shots in Storm Warning. All the rain's augmented with digital effects, all the set extensions, because it was all shot on a soundstage essentially once they get to that farmhouse. That's stage 2 at Melbourne's Docklands. So all the trees and all the stuff that goes out into the distance, that all had to be created with digital effects. The little kangaroo wallaby thing But that was augmented with CGI. So there was a lot of stuff in that movie that required digital work, even though you don't really notice it. So that took about a year, close to on a year, to do all that work. It was almost done by one guy. I think we had ended up bringing a couple of people to help him, but one guy doing all that work was kind of insane. He had to do rain mats, so when they're opening the doors in the barn, he had to draw it frame by frame around everybody so that the rain would fall at the right layer in the composition in his CGI projects. So I had all this time to score the film. I got all this gear. I set up in my lounge room, and I ended up scoring Storm Warning, I think about 3 or 4 times from beginning to end. And I was trying, maybe I'll do a pass that's a bit more kind of carpentry, and I'll try a little pass that's got a bit of John Harrison in it. And I was just having fun with all that stuff, just seeing, well, how, what sort of score does this movie really, really want? And then I sort of honed down into this sound that we came up with for that movie. And there's like so much music in Storm Warning. It's like an 82-minute movie. There's something like 78 minutes of score in that film that you don't even always notice. Sometimes the score is really subtle in the background, and it's almost like ambience and atmos sometimes. Other times it's right in your face. So there's a lot of music in that film, and I spent a long time working on that score. It was great fun though. I had a ball. We had a friend of mine who got this crazy ethnic flute he recorded all these samples for me, and we turned it into an instrument, a sampling instrument that I could play on the keyboard. So after I finished the score, I just thought I'll just see if some of this flute thing will work in a couple of spots. And it worked so well once I drenched it in reverb that they started laying it into every cue of the film. And then now it's almost like a signature sound in the film, is this weird flute, ethnic thing, on top of all this kind of cool synthesized stuff that we were doing. And man, I had a ball. I'm glad that we finished the effects, because I might still be scoring Storm Warning today if I hadn't had to stop.
It stands out. I mean, like, I love all your films, but there's just something about that score. And my better half, she's there in the chat too. She said it's like the score. It's like a storm.
That was the idea.
That's a good way to put it, actually.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff in there. There's even some screams that I kind of treated. Really interested with lots of filtering and stuff, but there's all sorts of sounds that comprise that score. So I'm excited that that's finally going to get a release later this year through Howling Wolf Records. They're going to put that score out. I had to do some editing to fit it onto a CD because it's actually a little bit longer than a CD. So I managed to stick everything. I think there's 10 seconds of dead space on that CD. So it'll be full of music, that score, that CD.
That's another thing. You've got a couple scores coming out now from Howlin' Wolf. I actually spoke with Wall a while back. Really great guy, by the way.
Oh, he's a wonderful man.
And you've got like Storm Warning, and you've got this Long Weekend 2 coming out.
Long Weekend and Crawl Space is coming out, and then we might talk about a few of the other scores that I've done come out as well. Wall's even said to me, man, if you want to do a concept album, we could do something like that, where you just write some cinematic type music.
That'd be excellent.
We can put it out, and I've got stacks of that stuff that I'd love to put out. And yeah, so look, I'm looking forward to some really fun collaborations with Wall at Howling Wolf Records this year.
Because I know you direct, and I love that. But I'm actually fascinated a lot with the music that you work on, and the composition as well, because that's really big with me. Now, going back to like for people that may not know, you actually got your start. Well, you did like a short film, and it's almost like a kind of He Knows Your type of film with more of a supernatural twist to it. But you started by doing the trailer, like a faux trailer for I Know What You Did Last Summer. You sent it out.
Yeah, that's how I got my break. I made that student film, which people can see on YouTube if they're interested. It's called Silent Number. It's on YouTube, and that got seen by. I sent it out to everybody when I finished at film school. I had it transferred to NTSC VHS, and I just remember popping it in the mail to Rennie Harlan and Stephen Hopkins and all these directors. Thinking, why am I sending it to directors? I should be sending this tape to producers. But I didn't know it. I just wanted to get it out there to as many people as I could. And we didn't have the internet back then or anything, so you sort of had to just go VHS and go door to door with this thing. And it got seen by a talent scout from Propaganda Films who was in Australia, he called me up one day and said, I think I was working for Fred Skepsy at the time as an editor, and he called me up and said, "Look, I just seen your student film. I'm representing Propaganda Films, and they've got a management division now, and we're looking for young talent from around the world to kind of help foster a career. And would you like management in the United States?" And I said, "Are you kidding? That'd be amazing." So we met and we hit it off, and he's still a really dear friend to this day. And he started sending scripts out to me. One of the scripts I got was called Scary Movie, which was Scream. And he said, "You might be really good. The Weinsteins liked your film. They liked your short film because it's got the girl on the phone. There's some similarities between the start of Scream and my student film. But obviously, the cooler heads prevailed, and they hired Wes Craven to do that movie, which was a very, very good idea. And he made a wonderful film with that. And that kind of opened the doorway to a whole lot of these other movies getting made in that genre. And they were looking to do another one. And then I remember getting a script for a thing called I Know What You Did Last Summer by the same guy who'd written Scream. And I love this script. The Fog's one of my favorite films. So it had a lot of elements that were similar to The Fog. They had these hooks and the lighthouse and the seaside town, all that cool stuff. And I thought, I reckon I could shoot something that would convince these guys that I could direct this movie. And I thought, I started going through the script with a highlighter pen and thinking, I should just shoot some scenes, because I knew in the fridge at the film house we had some 35 millimeter short ends. I think I had about maybe 10 minutes or 15 minutes of film that if I paid to get it developed, I'd be able to use that stock, because eventually they would have just thrown it out. So looking at scenes that I could shoot with some actors, and then every time I thought about it, it's like, all this is going to show these producers is that I've got such limited resources. I'll be doing a really kind of an economical version of some of these scenes that probably won't look anything like they will in the movie when they're spending all this money. I thought, how can I actually make something that has a bit of impact? And I thought, rather than putting all my resources into trying to shoot a couple of scenes from that script, I thought, what if I shot the whole thing and I'm just showing them the trailer of this movie that I was going to make? And then all I have to do is shoot shots. I can set up really cool shots and make it feel like it's part of a bigger whole. And that seemed to be a better use of that film, because I wouldn't have to worry if an actor flubbed their lines and do another take and run out of this film that I was going to run out of really quickly. I could just set up shots and roll for 10 seconds, cut. Because when you're using 35 millimeter film, it's expensive. You've got to have it processed. You've got to have it transferred. It all adds up very quickly. So that's what I thought I'll do. We'll make a trailer out of this script. So I went through and just highlighted all the moments that I wanted to shoot little things of, and then we went down to a little coastal town not far from Melbourne over a couple of weekends with some actors, and we borrowed the camera equipment from the film house, and we went and did all this. We shot this little trailer over like 4 days, and came back, put it all together, and then I had a cut, and we really liked the cut, and I was waiting for a friend of mine to do some sound work on the trailer for me, and that ended up taking 3 weeks. Then it was going to be another 4 weeks. He was trying to fit me in, and meanwhile the clock's ticking back in America while they're looking for directors for this film. I finally get my trailer finished. I stuck it on a courier straight over to them. My manager raced it over to Neil Moritz and Kevin Williamson and all the people involved with I Know What You Did Last Summer. They all loved it. They flipped out. They said, "Tell Jamie to get on a plane. We'd love to meet with him. There's only one small problem. We've already hired the director for this film, but we're going to see what we can do because we really love a trailer." So anyway, I went to LA, met with Neil, and they had. Jim was already set to direct that film, so there wasn't much I could do about that. But it did get seen by a lot of people, and like Robert Rodriguez saw it through his agent. Robert met with me one time, and we sat down. We had this great little powwow in Brentwood over a few beers, and it got to Phoenix Pictures. It got all over the place, and eventually that led to me working with Neil on his next project, which was Urban Legend. He promised me to either direct the sequel to I Know What You Did Last Summer, or I'll find something else for you. And what he found was Urban Legend.
I think you made the right decision with that one.
Yeah, I couldn't believe my luck.
Still Know is good, but Urban Legend's a classic.
It was
And
a
the
great
people used to
concept.
work with on that. It's some of my favorites. You got Tara Reid there. I love Tara Reid. I think she's highly underrated, actually. Um,
Great.
you Michael Rosenbaum, and a favorite of mine.
We
Always been a favorite of mine.
we discovered Michael Rosenbaum. He was we were originally leaning towards another very funny man, um, who will remain nameless, but he was brilliant, and he's been brilliant in lots and lots of movies, and we were definitely leaning in that direction. He was a little bit older than Michael, and Neil kind of felt, well, maybe he's a bit too old for this character. And I was like, no, it's perfect. This guy's supposed to be this perpetual, like, presence at university. Like he doesn't want to graduate. He just likes hanging around the frat house. I thought this guy would play him really well, but Rosenbaum came in and did the most amazing audition and blew us all away. We were just, I was on the floor. He's the funniest man I've ever met in my life. So he came and claimed that role in the audition.
That's the thing, and it stands like certain people have the smaller roles, but they'll stand out. And I thought that I thought your direction on that film's fantastic. Urban Legends is a favorite of mine. My favorite film you did is still Valentine. I'm not that's mine. And if I was to put in order, I'll do that for you. It's Valentine, Storm Warning, Urban Legend, Long Weekend. I love all four of the films, but that's my preference order. I'm different than other people I know, but those are favorites of mine. I love slasher films. I love giallos, and music's big and important for me in films, and it seems to be important in your films as well.
Oh, yeah.
And you cast so many cool people that I want to see on screen. Brad Durov must have been such a trooper during that sequence at the beginning of Urban Legend.
He was amazing. It's funny, when I first read that script, I think it was because of his character in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the stuttering character that he played, Billy Babbitt. If you look at the sign in Urban Legend when the camera's pulling down the gas station, it says B&B Gas. That was kind of the production designer and my joke that it was kind of Billy Babbitt's gas station after the So if his character hadn't died in Cuckoo's Nest, he would have gone and pumping gas somewhere in rural New Hampshire or something. And it just popped into my head when I read the script. This Brad Dourif should play this guy. Never thinking that in a million years that we'd actually get Brad Dourif to play that role. But we reached out to Brad, and he was up for doing just a few days little cameo in the movie, which was wonderful because Silvio had written the character that Natasha played was Michelle Mancini, which was like a nod of the hat to Don Mancini of Child's Play. So to put Chucky himself in that scene as well, it seemed really fun because it was kind of setting the stage for the kind of movie Urban Legend was intended to be, which was a celebration of the classic slasher films of the 80s, as well as kind of like coming in on the wake of Scream and trying to do something fun and a little bit meta, not using movies in this case, but using kind of classic folklore. And I was always so impressed when I read the script. I said, why hasn't anyone thought of doing this before? Like, they've made movies based on urban legends before, but never actually a movie about urban legends themselves so much. And I thought that was what Silvio did. So it was the script that was such a genius idea in the script, was to do this this story that incorporated all these urban legends so cleverly. I mean, it's kind of a ridiculous plot, but it sort of has to be in order for us to be able to dovetail around all these different stories while also making a whodunit. That was the one thing that used to drive Sylvia and I crazy with both, all the two mysteries that I made. Whenever you do a whodunit, it's a big pain in the ass because you've got to have all these other red herrings in the story. If it could be the creepy janitor, or maybe it's the the good-looking guy with the school paper. You have to have all these suspects. And then every time every time someone dies, you've lost one more suspect. So to keep people guessing all the way up to the end is much harder than actually it might appear on surface level. There's a lot to it to kind of keep mystery going. So, I'd like to do a slasher film one day where I don't have to worry about the whodunit aspect. It's just something like Halloween or Friday the 13th. It's Jason. It's nobody
like else. Columbo slasher type things.
Yeah,
basically know right from the beginning.
It would uncomplicate the whole thing a little bit if I didn't have to worry about a suspect.
Yeah, because you got Rebecca Gayheart, of course,
Mm.
because she was what, the Noxema girl at the
Yeah,
time,
she was.
really.
Unbeknownst to me, that Rebecca and Jared Leto had both done Noxema commercials
So
together.
he did actually.
He did, and I didn't know that when I cast the movie. I had no idea about that. And yeah, there was a little bit of tension from previous from a past life of those two, but that all got sorted out fine. But I had no idea that I was getting myself into that by casting both of them. Jared kind of came with the movie. He was the one actor that the studio really wanted in the film. I'd never seen Jared's stuff really. I hadn't seen My So-Called Life or any of the stuff that he'd done before that. So I just knew he was a big name, and like, if I was going to direct this movie, you're going to be directing it with Jared Leto, and
Yeah,
no
like you're
complaints.
obviously the Joker now, and
Yeah, I mean,
with the new Justice League, which
Oscar
way better than like the other Justice League, in my opinion.
yeah, I hope it's going to be a good one.
But yeah, it's I got to say, what a stacked cast. I mean, like, yeah, he was coming off, he was hot off of My So-Called Life, which he was really big in. I'd seen a bit of that because I knew Claire Danes, well, not personally, but I knew like of Claire Danes' work, and that got me to check it out. But after that, when you went, now, did you have like some different options? But were you offered the chance to do Urban Legend 2, or did you?
No, that was definitely offered to me. I was working with Phoenix on a different project at that time with Michael McDonald, who was my producer on Urban Legend. He'd just come off The Usual Suspects, and he and I had become really, really good friends. And we wanted to work together again on something, and we had this great thriller that we were going to do. That Phoenix had optioned the script, and then I spent the best part of all of 1999 working on the screenplay with several different writers. Funnily enough, one of these writers was a guy called Tony Spiridakis. Now, one of my favorite canon movies of all time was Death Wish 3, and all the way through Urban Legend, my assistant and I would be quoting lines from Death Wish 3 to each other every time we'd walk past each other. It's like, they killed the giggler, man. Killed the giggler. And we just say these stupid lines because it just amused us endlessly. And I don't know how it came up after I was working with Tony Spiridakis for a few months. We got onto canon film somehow, and I mentioned how much I love Death Wish 3. And he said, I was in that movie. No, really? And I've said, they killed the giggler. And he's like, yeah, that was my line. So I've been working with this guy for months without realizing that he uttered my favorite canon movie line of all time. And so that was pretty awesome. But that's just a side story. So anyway, we ended up not getting Blood Relative off the ground. We'd spent so much money on script that it came with $1 million price tag to who was ever going to try and set that movie up, because there was so much money against the script at that point that it just became just a pain in the ass for anyone who wanted to make that movie. It's like, well, it's maybe a $18-20 million movie with an extra $1 million just on the script. It became problematic to set up, which sort of broke my heart. So I really wanted to make that film. So they were going to go into Urban Legend 2, and it was very different from the Urban Legend sequel that I wanted to make. I'd set up Urban Legend at the end of the film with that. I wrote that twist ending with Brenda at the end. There was always that coda where there was kids telling the story, but it was my idea to make it Brenda and say, no, you didn't tell the story right. Let me tell you how the story really goes, implying that she got away with the kill. She murdered everyone, and she's gone on, and you can interpret that ending all sorts of different ways. And I wanted to do a sequel with Urban Legend where you bring back the entire original cast again, and you tell a story at Pendleton University, except it's a different story. Things weren't quite the same. The legends were different, and that was going to be, I thought, a really novel way of doing a sequel, is bringing back the whole cast that way and doing it that way. They ended up going with this film school idea, which was great, and John Ottman did a really good job. And they asked me about if I'd like to do that film, and I, at that point, was looking at other things, and my agent at the time really suggested that it would be a good idea to do a picture at Warner Brothers, particularly a horror film at Warner Brothers, because they hadn't done one in a very long time. They'd distributed some horror films, but they hadn't actually produced a horror film God, he thought maybe it was like Exorcist 2 or something might have been the last horror film directly
Oh,
produced
wow.
at Warner Brothers. You think of Warner's stuff in the 80s, other than stuff that maybe got distributed through that studio, they weren't really known for their horror films. You know, they did a lot of good comedies and action films and things, but horror wasn't really a genre that Warner excelled at. So it was kind of a cool opportunity to do something for a big studio, and I decided to do Valentine instead. I thought it's much better to make original films, part ones, rather than doing sequels to movies. At least that was my thinking at the time, and I'm really glad I did Valentine because I had a really good time working with those girls.
And again, I'm not sure your casting director is, but fantastic again, because Valentine was so extremely well cast. You got Denise Richards, Catherine Haga, right at the beginning of the film, who would go on to do like quite a few things. Actually, almost everybody in that film. Jessica Caulfield, who I love, by the way. I don't think she gets enough credit.
I'd seen her in the Urban Legend sequel. Actually, she'd just done that film, and she came in and read for me in the audition for Valentine. And I liked Jessica straight away. So you can kind of tell, I think, in an audition within the first 10, 15 seconds if someone inhabits or embodies the role as you imagine. And very rarely, with the exception of David Lyons on Storm Warning, who played Jimmy, who blew me away in his audition, and I completely thought there's no way this guy's he's way too good looking and he's never going to be scary enough. Very rarely do you get surprised in an audition to the degree where it's like you end up actually casting that person. If they've got to be a certain type for that character, at least in the way you've seen in your head. Because it's the most crucial thing is getting your script right and your cast right. No director is better than his script or his cast. It's just it's as good as it gets. Your job at that point is to find the best people to play those roles. And if you do that part of the job right, it's smooth sailing from that point on. All you need to do is block the film and shoot it and make it look great on set. All the hard work's done once you've cast those roles properly. So I spend a long time thinking about my cast, and I try and make very careful, considered decisions about cast, because it's also a chemistry experiment too. You've got to put these people together, and one person might be wonderful in a character, but the person they're going to play against, if they don't have any chemistry there, it's not going to work. So it really is a complicated process trying to get those casts right. And I've always put a lot of emphasis on casting, and I think it's one of the most crucial jobs you do as the director, and it's the job, one of the earliest jobs you do. You've got to do it right, otherwise
you got like two of the heartthrobs. Like one, you got Jared Leto from My So-Called Life, and then you get like Buffy and Angel, of course, David Boreanaz.
David was just wonderful. It's just a great guy he is. He really is one of the most lovely people I've ever worked with, David Boreanaz. Can't say enough good things about that guy.
See, my better half's going to like that because she loves Angel.
He's a sweetheart, and he was so supportive of all the girls in that movie. And man, he didn't complain once. Nothing was a problem for Dave. Any note that I wanted to give him, he could play that note straight. I mean, he was so well practiced with all his TV stuff. Honestly, cannot say enough good things about David Boreanaz. One of the greatest guys I've ever worked with. I love David. One
of my favorite sequences in that film, by the way, is with the art show. That was so brilliantly done and shot, and it stands out still to this day that it's just something that always sticks with me. And was there anything in particular that inspired that? I know like Valentine's based on a book, right?
It's based on it. Well, I always joke that the film is based on the title of a novel by Tom Savage.
Because I've never read the book, I'll be honest with you.
It's got nothing to do with the movie we ended up making. That was the first thing I did, was order that book on Amazon. And told the producer, I'm doing my research. I'm about to read the novel. He's like, "Don't worry, man. We're not doing that story." And I read the book. I'm like, "This is a good story," but no, that's not the film they wanted to make. They wanted, they wanted something that more resembled what we released. Maybe one day it'd be good to do that book as a film. I think it would be.
What hasn't been done there? You can go back and actually make the same. Make
Valentine again. Yeah, do it for real. It's what were we saying? We were talking about Valentine, the art gallery scene. Every movie has its one scene which is kind of the most pivotal and complicated scene. And Storm Warning, it was the hook sequence. That took like so much planning to get right. And on Valentine, it was that art gallery sequence. Just from a production design point of view, that scene was complicated because that set had to be modular. We had a very small space that we were, it was an old clothing factory in Vancouver called the Correct Building. I think it's been pulled down by now. But we had several floors of that building, which were kind of our stage spaces. Like we had Denise and Jessica's apartment built on one level, and we had Marley's apartment built there, and several sets from the film. The jacuzzi set was built there. So we only had limited space for that set, and the production designer, very clever guy named Stephen Gagan. He actually appeared on the live stream we did for Valentine on Valentine's Day this year. I hadn't seen Stephen in 20 years until that live stream. And he's an incredibly talented dude. So cool. It was so clever, and his team were fantastic. And he came up with this idea of doing a modular set for that art gallery. So these panels that you see with all the projections and things, all the panels except the ones that had video on them, they were all modular, so they could be moved and reconfigured at any point that I wanted to. So we shot that scene over several days, and he made this little scale model for me of the set with all the pieces, and they were all just attached them with pins, and I could move them around. And so what I do is I go home at night and look at this stuff we were going to shoot the following day, and I could just like Legos move the whole set around and reconfigure the way that the maze was going to work, and that would allow me to block the scenes for that day. And then at lunchtime, if I wanted to do a reconfigure of the set, they could do that while we're at lunch, and it would only take about 45 minutes to move all the panels and rig the lights again. So we did that about 3 or 4 times during the course of that scene to make it feel bigger. And it's actually, if you saw how small the space we're operating in, it's actually a really good trick because it feels much bigger than it really was.
It's like, that is, again, it stands out as one of my favorite scenes in like that era when it comes to like shot. It's just well done. I love that film. I can geek about that film all day. I'm so glad you're a fan of the movie, Darren. It makes me very
happy. I got excoriated for Valentine by the critics when it came out, and the readers of Fangoria magazine famously voted it the worst movie of the year.
No,
and I'm like, really, it's that bad, guys. It's the worst movie of the year. It took me a long time to recover from that. I remember getting the issue I was in LA, got the issue of Fangoria, and it was almost like the first page I opened up to. Somehow I just straight to that the Chainsaw Awards of the year, and they literally voted it the worst movie of the year. I thought I just made this. I thought I must be completely completely out of touch with the audience. You know,
look at Carpenter in The Thing, like films like that. You know?
Sorry, say again, Aaron.
Look at movies like that Carpenter made, like both mine and your favorites, The Fog and The Thing. Not exactly like back in their day.
I don't know if I'm going to Valentine to The Thing, but thank you.
Do you know what I mean? You get my idea.
Yeah.
We got another question here from Zach. He said that how's it working with Rick Boda?
Oh, Rick. Well, Rick was my first choice. I met with Rick prior to having met James Chrysanthus. So I'd sort of met Rick Boda, and I thought I want to offer the job to Rick because we just hit it off. And we got a really great rapport. And Rick couldn't do Urban Legend. He was waiting for Tim Burton to do Superman with Nick Cage at the time. Believe it or not, he was up to shoot that, or at least up to shoot like maybe second. You know, he shot a whole bunch of Steven Seagal movies, and he shot a whole lot of episodes of Tales from the Crypt. And he's an incredibly talented guy. But anyway, it ended up being I didn't get to work with Rick on Urban Legend, and I worked with James Chrysanthus, who's just an absolute genius and a dear friend. So when it came time to do Valentine, I obviously offered it to James because we'd had this great working relationship. And James couldn't do Valentine. So I went back to Rick again and asked, look, are you interested in working together on this movie instead? And unbeknownst to me, I have a habit of doing this thing. Rick had already been in discussions with Warner Brothers and Dylan Sellers to direct Valentine.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they were talking to Rick because Rick's a director as well. And so he's like, he made me aware. Just so you know, I was actually, talking to them about directing this thing before you got the gig. Would you be cool with that? I'm like, I'm fine with that. You know the movie just as probably well as I do. You've probably done all this prep on it, and if you don't mind working with me on this thing, I'd love to work with you. And we had the most wonderful relationship, and he's still a really dear friend. When my wife and my son and I came back to LA in 2018 to do all the Scream Factory stuff for the 2 releases, we were going to just crash at Rick's for a couple of nights, and he said, no, you want you to stay for the 2.5 weeks. And we stayed at Rick's house and had a lovely time. And he's really one of my dearest friends, and I'm hoping we get to work together again soon.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's a chance. So I think Rick's wonderful and one of the greatest guys, and I can't say enough great things about Rick Boda.
The neat thing is that it shows too, because both you had him wanting to work direct on it, talking about directing on the film, you actually going and directing it, him doing the cinematography for the film. It's like you had a combined vision, and I think that's why it works so well. And like the kind of put it in the time frame when Valentine came out, like it was a time when slashers were getting a hard beating pretty much across the board. So I don't think it was just you. I think anybody putting out a slasher at that period, it was rough.
It was coming out like when I knew my goose was cooked was they had the scary movie, the Wayans brothers parody came out ahead of Valentine.
Yeah.
Already lampooning the genre, and I'm coming out with a straight 80s film. I don't know if it was also that, the readership of Fangoria were predominantly blokes. And Valentine's not particularly flattering towards white straight guys. It's actually it's maybe more of a movie you might expect to see today, which is a bit more woke and a bit more Me Too maybe. And we were calling out this litany of character flaws that women experience in the dating scene. And who knows what if that had anything at all to do with it, but it's not a particularly flattering film for your average bloke. I always thought it was kind of hilarious too that there's an idea that Denise Richards and Marley Shelton need to go speed dating to find a date. It's like, they're the most beautiful women in the world, and that was a little bit. I mean, there was a lot of things that stretched credibility in Valentine, but maybe that was the most extreme case.
Yeah, Marley Shelton. I'd forgotten for a second there that was Marley Shelton.
Oh, Marley's the greatest. She's so fat. She's kind of like a classic Hitchcock blonde. And, she really is. And I love when Robert Rodriguez used her in Sin City, because there's just something classically so beautiful about Marley. She's one of the most gorgeous human beings on the face of the earth. She's one of the sweetest, kindest, most intelligent, beautiful girls, but just so gorgeous on screen. And I adored working with Marley, with all the girls actually.
Now, speaking of stuff like that, like Scream and any of those, were you ever like, did you ever think, but was there ever like a franchise where you're like, maybe I got something to say here? Like,
Sure. I mean, I would have loved to do all sorts of things. My great dream as a kid growing up in the 80s was that one day I would direct Friday the 13th, Part 13. I was figuring it out, trying to do the timeline, and well, maybe if I get to Hollywood and I can make something by around in the 20s, maybe I'll be up. I always wanted to do a Friday movie. And maybe there's still a chance, because the next one will be Part 13. If you include Freddy versus Jason, the next one is the 13th Friday. So this lawsuit's dragging on and on forever, though. So who knows if there's ever going to get any resolution with that?
Hopefully. I mean, like the lawsuit's been. I'm hoping. I'm not sure what's side the camp you're on. I'm kind of hoping Victor Miller gets something
I'm
for
on
this,
Team Miller,
because it's going to mean a lot to creators.
Absolutely, no, that's exactly why I'm on Victor's side, and I think it's disgraceful that he wasn't included in profit participation on a series that's made so much money. Really, would it have killed him to shed some of the wealth of the guy who came up with the story? I mean, really, that kind of greed. I don't find that particularly admirable. I think. I mean, God, if that had been me, I would have. I don't think I could have lived with myself for all that time, knowing that I'd stiffed Victor out of some money that he was owed for. He came up with the character, one of the most iconic characters in all of horror, and that he had to go fight for this. I just I really hope he prevails, because it will set an important precedent for all sorts of creators. And I think for too often writers get the shaft, especially by some powerful producers, and I think that's despicable. And I really hope that gets resolved in Victor's favor, because I think
when I wrote my first film for like a small company out of Ohio, one of the first things that I had to do was sign this contract that signed off on all rights and everything for the film. Once I got to see it, I was like, okay, I'm kind of glad. but that's another story.
Yeah.
But you went from
there's such a thing as making a work for hire, and that's been the case with every time I've been hired by a Hollywood studio, and that's fair enough. They're hiring me as a contractor to work for them. So any creative stuff I come up with during that period belongs to them, and that's fair. That's made clear up front. But that's not the situation that existed with Sean and Victor Miller. So different things,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'll be interesting to see where it goes and how it can change if it goes the way that I think it should go. How it can change the industry a bit, because there's a lot of stuff there where people have had like the rights in their films actually kind of taken away from them. That could change a lot. It's something that would be kind of epic. I was going to ask, since I live close to where My Bloody Valentine, the original, was written, any inspiration at all when you're from Valentine to My Bloody Valentine? Were there any nods at all?
No, the only thing I when I saw the script come in, that's what I thought it was. I thought it was maybe a reimagining of My Bloody Valentine, and I was glad to see there were no mines in the movie and stuff, because they went through a lot of remakes at that point anyway in Hollywood. It wasn't really that sort of became a thing when Texas Chainsaw got remade. So it started that whole
remake phrase.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh, we get to. I'll just no. We'll have a remakes, because I made a remake, so we should talk about that. But no, I wanted Valentine to do. I thought here's a really good chance to do a slasher film that embraces all the iconography of Valentine's Day, and that's why I kind of love the idea of this cherub. Originally, the killer is wearing a pig's mask or something like that. Like, this is not Motel Hell. It's a Valentine's Day slasher. Like, make it a cherub. And I remember getting all the Botticelli books and taking them to K&B and working with Greg and Bob Kurtzman and the guys to try and come up with that iconic cherub design. We even decided to make the mask, the latex mask, kind of feel like it was a canvas, so it almost was like a Botticelli painting. So when you see the mask up close, you can kind of see they've mottled in that kind of texture to it. And I just think that's really cool. I really love the design that they came up with for that.
It's creepy, man.
it is creepy, and I always in my head imagined that a sort of sweet little cherub face doing all these terrible things would be a really great kind of juxtaposition.
He also has one of my favorite posters, actually. I love the poster.
Yeah, I said to the guys at Warner's, I said, can we please not have one of these posters which is like a Vanity Fair cover with all the bloody floating heads? I quite like the design they did for Urban Legend, but it's still that era was all about the floating heads. And I said to the guys at Warner's, I said, look, this is designed to be a classic 80s sort of slasher throwback. I said, what I'd love is if you could be clever and come up with a poster design that's kind of like the original Halloween poster, where it's one image, but it's two images. It's the knife and the pumpkin, and it's something that talks about this obsessive guy on Valentine's Day, and also that ties in with the idea of the cherub mask, and they came up with that great piece of paper. He loves me not. That whole motif. I designed that trailer that they shot with the girl pulling the petals out of the flower. He loves me not, and then she gets yanked out of the frame, and there was that cool little teaser that I was supposed to shoot that, but they ended up shooting that in LA with the marketing team. It's not quite how I would have done it, but it turned out good enough. But that whole he loves me not sort of got woven into the advertising, and I'm really pleased that the marketing guys kind of listened to me, and they came up with a design that was just. As soon as I saw it, I was like, "That's it." And they later on the DVD they inserted all the beautiful actors and stuff, and they did a different kind of poster. But the one that I've got up in my kitchen is the bust stop size original art, which is just the cherub, and I just love that poster. It's wouldn't change anything about that poster.
And that's like you work with the concept art, like for the of concept trailer. And I love that because one of the things we get now so often and that annoys the heck out of me, I'm not sure about you, is that you just see too much in the trailer.
Yes,
So
always. I hate trailers that give too much away.
that was refreshing to see something like that where you're like, okay, no, you got to go in and you kind of going in a bit blind. You got to feel the film, but you don't know exactly what you're getting. And
Yeah, I was really pleased that they didn't give too much away in that trailer. They interestingly went with a female voiceover too, which you don't hear that often in a horror trailer. It's usually, a big deep male voice. Well, not anymore. They don't do any voiceovers in the horror trailers much anymore. It's a lost art. But it was interesting that Valentine had a female voiceover for the trailer. I thought it was kind of a cool point of difference.
there was a, and after Valentine, that's when we get to the one of my favorites, Storm Warning, right? I want to make sure I got in the right order. Because that's one that I still think like is I would love to see a great release of Storm Warning. It needs a good Blu-ray release. It needs a good special edition release. It's a fantastic film.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, it did come out in the UK through Optimum Home Releasing. They put out a Blu-ray of Storm Warning. And I think it's still out there. You can still get it pretty cheap, actually. But I'm talking with my good friends at Umbrella in Australia about trying to track down. It's still owned by the Weinstein Company in Australia and America for home video, but Weinstein Company's kind of imploded, and those rights may now have passed on to some other entity. So we're just trying to track down who has those rights, because I've got hours and hours of stuff that was shot by these two young filmmakers before and during production on Storm Warning. We shot everything every single day of the shoot. There's behind the scenes stuff of everything, so we could definitely put together a really good Blu-ray for that. And the transfer, it's a digital movie, so there's no going back and doing a new Blu-ray or anything. It's a that look of that movie will always be the same. It's with any digital movie. They tend to it's not like you can go back to the original camera negative and create a new release. So the transfer will essentially be the same, but we could put a lot of extras on there. And there's already a commentary track there with me and a bunch of the crew and Robert Taylor, the actor. But we could probably do more commentaries and do some more interviews and things. So yeah, it's definitely on my radar this year that I want to do a proper special edition of Storm Warning. And I've been at work on that for the last couple of months, just with ArcLight, trying to figure out who owns the rights and things like that.
Now, hopefully that works out. That's a day one buy for me. Obviously, Storm Warning is one of the scores, like I spoke about even before we came on here, is one of my favorite scores. So I was super excited when Howlin' Wolf Records we're putting that, when you announced that they're putting that out, and that night I contacted Wall right away.
Right. Well, Wall's amazing. There's a funny story that actually went with this whole thing. I was on I joined Twitter back in 2013 and never used it. I just had to create an account so I could view. It was constantly asking me to sign up so I could view tweets and stuff. And I never had any intention of using my Twitter account. But in February this year, it was the 20th anniversary of Valentine. I thought I'll just put out a little tweet saying happy anniversary, Valentine. And that kind of led to a bunch of stuff. And I've sort of become a bit more active on Twitter now. But one of the things it led to was a friend that I met on Twitter asked about the Storm Warning score and said, is it ever coming out commercially? I said, no, there's no plans to do that. And he suggested I call Howling Wolf Records because they do these kind of horror scores from sort of independent movies, and thought they might be interested in that. So I wrote to Wall at Howling Wolf Records, just a little short email saying who I was and that the film had won Best Score at Screamfest that year. It was actually I've had two films in competition that are two scores in competition at Screamfest, and each time I've won the award, which is very nice. That I've got a couple of these Screamfest awards. I love these. These was designed by Stan Winston, man.
Oh, you serious? Oh, that is gorgeous.
Yeah. So I got this was for Crawl Space, and I got one for Storm Warning. Anyway, so I said to Walt, if you're interested, let me know. And he said, I've been trying to find you since 2011, like 10 years ago. I was trying to put the score out, and I couldn't find you. You weren't on social media. There was nowhere to track you down. I thought, that's so weird that, like, he actually had tried to put the score out before. So it's wonderful that it's coming out. I'm really stoked that it's coming out. And yeah, it's he's a gorgeous man. And he sent me all these great CDs. Like, he sent me this pile of stuff. The entire collection, like 46 CDs, man. Like,
that's incredible. Silent Night, Deadly Night's got that, that song.
Yeah,
that I love.
A of songs on there, and they do a really good job, and the liner notes are really nice. And so yeah, I couldn't be happier that the scores have found a great home. And Wall and I have become really good friends. We write these huge emails to each other every week about what's going on. And yeah, I know you've been in touch with Wall a couple of times too. And
yeah, the Prowler's coming out. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, the Prowler's going to be amazing when that comes out. He's going to send us both a copy of that when that comes along. I think it's April. He said something was going to come out in April. So
yeah, it looks to be, I think, early to mid-April.
Yeah, that'll be really fun to have that.
But no, I'm looking forward to that. I want to see the write-up. I saw him. I used to be a CD collector, actually. I used to have a large collection of CDs. Nothing like you got there. You got an impressive collection, man. But
I'm like you. I'm a physical media aficionado. Yeah. And I've turned a lot of perfectly good cash into plastic discs over the years.
But I mean, like, so you said you won for the Screamfest one for that film for Storm Warning. What was the other one?
Funny enough, the two films. Justin Dix, my makeup effects designer, he won Best Makeup Effects for Storm Warning, and I won Best Score for Storm Warning. He directed Crawl Space and put it into Screamfest, and once again he won for Best Makeup Effects, and I won for Best Score. It's just so weird that both times we got the same award for different movies. So Justin's amazing director. He's a great guy.
But I mean, there's so much that I love about Storm Warning, and it's such a simple story, but it works so well. And again, that I said 82, like around 82 months, right? Around 82, 88, somewhere around there. So it's kind of a sweet spot, I think, for that style film.
Doesn't overstay its welcome.
Oh, Wall's right there. Hey, welcome, Wall.
Oh, Wall's there. Hey, there he is. Hello, my friend.
So for those that don't know, Howlin' Wolf Records, you definitely should be checking them out because they do amazing stuff. And I cannot believe that Uli Lummel's The Boogeyman score is there, and that blows my mind. I love that.
Well, this crowd too, they're all about supporting physical media, and I mean, that's why your channel's so wonderful, Aaron, because it is a little home we can all get together and discuss how much we love physical media. And we all understand the importance of supporting these labels, because if we don't support them, they're not going to be there. And none of us want to live in a world where it's streaming only. I mean, can you imagine that when we say goodbye to like commentaries and extra features?
How boring is that, really?
I mean, seriously, we're going to stream all our music. We're only going to get it from the streaming cloud. We're not going to be able to collect CDs anymore. So I urge everybody out there. I know don't have to worry about this crowd. I know they're already doing that, but I'm always on Twitter just pushing the case. You've got to support physical media, otherwise it'll go away, and none of us want that.
Oh no! I mean, like, there's a question. No, I'll leave that for a second. But there's a question I got to ask actually. But after Storm Warning, by the way, Nadia from Morocco, actually.
Yeah, that's right.
I mentioned it before. So, which I love. My better half is from Morocco. She was born in Casablanca. She lives in we live in Marrakesh. Well, we don't live there now. We're going to be living there eventually.
Yeah, right.
Inshallah. But so. Yeah, we got our condo there, but it was interesting because I was listening to her accent. I'm like, and my better half's like, is she French? Is she Egyptian? I'm like, I got a feeling. So I checked out, and I'm like, no, born in Marrakesh, Morocco. I'm like, and there you go.
Isn't that funny? Yes, Nadia was wonderful to work with. I originally in my head had Maggie Q in mind for that role.
Oh, really?
Tough, and it would be really exciting. And then Nadia's name came up. She's married to Steve Chasman, who's Jason Statham's manager. and he's produced a lot of big action films and stuff. And Nadia had been in some really cool action films in France. One really great one called The Nest, and she's been in a bunch of other films. Awesome. And I checked her movies out, and then I jumped on a plane to meet her in Paris, and just straight away realized Nadia would be great in this role. And the whole, just that the contrast between this gorgeous French girl and these scumbag Aussie, like, rednecks, it just made a really great dynamic. And the fact that she could sort of talk in a couple of scenes in French in code to her husband were really nice touches that Everett really embraced in the script. My dear departed friend Everett Durov, who I absolutely loved working with, and I'm glad I got to make 2 films with Everett, but I wish I could have made a whole lot more.
I did not know that was digitally done when it came to that. I had no idea.
No one would know, and that's the great thing about they're not obvious CGI effects. You know, all that stuff is very, very tastefully done, and it's cleverly integrated. Even the rain, when it bounces off the ground, he rendered little splashes for all that stuff. So it really does feel like it's part of the set. It doesn't feel like some element that's just dropped on over the top.
But again, that is, you know, I could talk about that film forever. So I know her from The Crimson River as well.
Yeah, that's another great one. Yeah. Good movie.
With Jean Reno.
That's right.
And I think Vincent Castle too, right? I think.
You're right about that.
I'm gonna.
I've got it up there. I can check if you want. Got it there somewhere.
You got it there, right? I got it downstairs, actually. So from there, The Long Weekend. So that's your first remake that you ever did.
Yeah.
How did it feel? Like, because this was a classic film going in here. This is obviously one a lot of people knew.
It did well. It's not as many people that I knew in Australia knew of the film as sort of know about it now. I know Don May had released it on Synapse and released the DVD of it.
Yeah,
but it wasn't easy to find. It wasn't on wasn't in every video store in the 80s. It was kind of a little bit more under the radar, and I sort of checked it out again when I was about to do Storm Warning, just to kind of reacquaint myself with all of Everett's projects again, because it had been a while since I'd seen some of them. You know, he wrote so many classic Australian films in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, he wrote almost all of the genre films. You know, close to all of them. And I just thought it was a really good story to tell again, because it was an eco-horror story. It was kind of like an environmental horror movie. And it seemed more relevant to tell it in 2007 than even when it came out in 78. So it's ironic. It was the first film Everett ever had go before the cameras, the original Long Weekend, and my remake was the last one that he saw.
Oh, really?
Passed away.
Oh man, I mean, and I thought, like, I love the film. Actually, I really did. I really thought it would have got more publicity, because, you know, here's this, like, it's a remake of a classic film. It's a good remake of a classic film, and we don't always get that, unfortunately. And I'm gonna say Jim, because I'm not gonna butcher the last name. But no, I would.
Jim Caviezel.
Caviezel, thank you. I'm horrible with names, man. And he's, like, fantastic. I think the cast in that one's fantastic. Small cast, obviously, because it's a long weekend. But I really, really enjoyed that. I hated the name change in North America.
Is it? Have I got it here? It's the worst. It is the worst piece of. Oh, I've only got this, like, 3-pack. But can you see that?
That's the exact one I got, man.
How bad is that artwork? I mean, what drunk chimp Photoshop job? Look at that thing. It's just dreadful. Nature's grave. Yeah, I pleaded with the US distributor not to do that. I said, what's the thinking behind this? Oh, because there's a comedy that came out it was called Long Weekend. And I said, look, we just did a documentary on Australian genre cinema with Quentin Tarantino. Talks about the original Long Weekend, one of his favorite movies of all time. I said, genre fans are going to sort of pick up on this documentary, and it's kind of what Tarantino says tends to travel amongst this crowd. And I figured, it seems like a dumb idea to call it something else when it's a remake of a film that Tarantino kind of loves. Doesn't it make sense to kind of stick with the original title? They said, "Oh, we don't think anyone's going to care about that documentary or Tarantino or whatever. We're going to call it Nature's Grave, and that's that." So I lost that battle. The marketing geniuses won that round, and still to this day, no two words cause me more angst than Nature's Grave.
I apologize for messing with
retitled, but it's not like it was retitled something cool. Like in Phantasm, the original Phantasm in Australia, they titled it The Never Dead because there was a kind of a semi-porno movie by Richard Franklin actually called Phantasm with an F, Phantasm with an F, not PH.
Yeah.
So they called Phantasm The Never Dead, which is kind of a cool title. Don't always like that title. I wouldn't mind if they'd called Long Weekend something cool like that, but Nature's Grave.
Yeah, it seems like just a by-the-book generic title, especially for such a... Now, did you ever speak with Tarantino on his thoughts on the film?
Oh, never. No. I never met Quentin. I've met so many guys in the genre. I've never had a chance to meet Quentin. He's been out a few times with Mark here, and they've gone out. I've never been with them when they're with Quentin. I think they caught up with him in Sydney and stuff. So, no, I've not had a chance to meet with Quentin.
It's interesting. My good friend of mine, Brian, works with Just to This podcast and like the Pure Cinemas. Had him on a few times, and
Right.
I'm this much closer to knowing Tarantino by proxy.
He was one of the reasons Mark was able to get Not Quite Hollywood made, and that's such an important documentary because for years, Australian genre cinema was kind of like the poor stepchild of the real legit Australian film industry, and no one really talked about those genre movies, even though that's kind of where some of our greatest directors and technicians came from. And we've made some really great, crazy, bonkers movies over the years, So I was really pleased when Mark asked me if I would edit that for him because I just thought it was so important and so long overdue that we looked at directors like Richard Franklin and Brian Trenchard Smith, Colin Eggleston, all those guys who made these classic movies, and actually shone a bit of a spotlight on them for a change, and acknowledged the huge contributions they made to the Australian film industry. So it was something I was very, very proud of.
It's the most watched documentary in my house. It's been watched more than anything else. We love I love Australian cinema. Two, that documentary is insanely interesting. And how many discs that have how many Australian films have taken here's some interviews from Not Quite Hollywood. Yeah. A lot.
Yeah, it's true. I was saying to Mark, he was over here the other day, and I said how sad I was that we had to actually delete all that media off my computer eventually, because had we known how many DVDs and Blu-rays were going to draw upon that media, we would have kept it in high definition. But all we really had were the standard def DVDs that we spat out of the main project. So all those subsequent interviews have come from standard definition sources, which is a shame because it would be nice to have used the high def. But yeah, that was a massive undertaking, that project. It was the biggest editing job I think I've ever done. I finished Storm Warning, then we started Not Quite Hollywood. I left 3 weeks before I started shooting Long Weekend, went off and filmed Long Weekend, and came back, and then went back into the cutting room, and Not Quite Hollywood was still editing Not Quite Hollywood at that point. So that was a huge, huge, huge job. And yeah, the edit on that thing just looked like shrapnel. It was just like it was cut like a trailer. I don't think there's any shot in that film that lasts maybe longer than 3-4 seconds. It's pretty amazing.
A lot of people are happy that you're a physical media collector.
I'm happy that we're all collecting, because without collectors, we don't have a format. So yeah, we should all collect as much as we can.
I want to give I'm trying to give people the chance to see if they're gonna ask some questions that they want to ask you that I haven't thought up. But I got to say, when it comes to your output, you knock it out of the park.
Oh, it's very kind, my friend. Thank you. I really appreciate it saying that.
And it's not like just saying because you're here or verbally. I've said it before I met you, so
yeah,
I'm on record.
Yeah, it's really sweet, man. It's the nicest thing to know that there's people who enjoy what you do, because none of us set out to make films that people are going to hate. You want to reach as many people, and you want to entertain as many people as you can. So that's why when you hear that your film's been badly received, it's heartbreaking. For anyone who really cares about what they do. It's it's you want people to respond positively, and you want to know that people were entertained. If nothing else, don't bore people. And as long as they're entertained, that's great. So when I hear that there's fans of Valentine and stuff, after for years thinking that I'd made a big dud, it's really nice. It makes me really happy to know there's people out there who appreciated all the hard work that went into it from the cast and all the crew that worked so hard on it. So that's awesome.
We got to ask from Kubrick here, is there an actor that you haven't got worked with yet that you really want to work with?
Kurt Russell.
There's a dream actor, man.
Kurt Russell.
Because he's just, his son, for that where we mentioned it before.
That's right.
His son's getting big there.
Yeah, I'm really pleased to see there's another generation of Russells. What camera did we shoot? That was shot on the Sony, what was it? Whatever the Sony digital cinema camera was in 2006, the top of the line Sony system. You probably know that better than me. I just can't remember the camera code thing, but it was a Sony system. I'd seen Jeffrey Wright, who made Romper Stomper and Cherry Falls, had just shot a version of Macbeth with that camera, and there was a lot of night cinematography. And I was most interested to see how the camera performed at night. Sony's cameras have always been pretty famously good in low light conditions, but because that whole film happened at night, I wanted a camera that could reproduce, that had the right sort of color space that I was looking for Storm Warning. And we went with the Sony system on that. We went with an ARRI system on Long Weekend, and I loved that ARRI system, even though it was not practical on location. There was a lot of cables, umbilical cords attached from the camera to the recorder, because it was all being recorded on HD tape. So not exactly practical when you're out on the beach, in southern Australia. It was not the most nimble of systems, but I love the picture quality. That was kind of the forerunner to the Alexa, the modern Alexa.
Here's actually a good question. Is there any unsung gem, any film that you think people should watch that hasn't got a good release yet, that you think needs it?
Oh, well, we were talking about just the other day. One of my favorite films from the 80s is Alone in the Dark, and it only, got a DVD release so far, and it's well overdue for a Blu-ray. I think that one's really worth seeking out if you haven't seen it, even if you can only watch it in standard def at this point. I did actually. I think I sent it to you, Aaron. It screened in high def on cable television here in Australia. And while Mark and I were getting ready for Electric Boogaloo, there were a lot of Canon films that were getting screened on cable television that never got released on disc. So he'd record them all onto his little hard disk recorder, his like the Foxtel recorder, and he'd bring them over to my house, and we figured out a system. It was really quite elaborate how we were able to get it out of that hard disk recorder and into my edit system and record them in full HD. So that's how we got a lot of those Canon titles, because at that point there had been no Blu-ray release for some of those titles. So we wanted to show them in high def in the documentary, and that's how we're able to do it, is by recording them through this system, this cable system that we were doing, and that's how we got our hands on a HD copy of Alone in the Dark,
which is my second favorite documentary, is a Canon documentary.
Yeah. That was my favorite music scoring job of all time, was doing Electric Boogaloo, because what other job do you get to spend like 5 weeks? One day you wake up and you would be scoring a Chuck Norris movie or a Ninja movie or a Charlie Bronson film or like Superman movie. I mean, it was just so much fun every day. Texas Chainsaw 2. I wanted each cue to have its own kind of little personality, but also it ties together as a complete piece. So the score for Machete Maidens and Electric Boogaloo, I'm really super proud of. And who knows, maybe Wall and I can one day talk about releasing those scores as well. It'd be really fun.
That'd be fantastic, actually. If Wall's still there, man. Eventually, hopefully. Definitely stuff that I want to look into. There's some great questions there. Somebody else asked, what if you have any advice for an upcoming filmmaker, getting a start in the business, in the genre, what would you say?
Yeah, my advice is and it's easier now than ever to do it, is just make things. You've got to make films. You've got to show people what you can do as a filmmaker, and don't wait for someone to give you permission to go out and make a short film. Just go out and make stuff, and the more stuff you make, the better off you're going to be, and the more ammunition you're going to have to help get you that first break. I always say luck is the equation of luck is chance meeting preparation, and the more prepared and the more short film work you can do, the better off you're going to be when that opportunity finally does come your way to get your foot in the door. My advice is to make as many films as you possibly can. Read a lot, and if you want to become a director, the best thing you can do is become a good editor first. That's the one thing that saved my butt on my first movie. Was, even though I'd never directed a feature-length film before, I'd edited lots of stuff, and I was always keeping in my mind whereabouts in the story I was. So basically, when you're making a feature, you don't shoot it. I'm assuming you all know this, but just bears repeating. You don't shoot it in order, obviously. You might as well just take the script, throw it up into the air, and pick a page out of the air at random, and it's like, okay, we're starting with this. We're a night exterior, whatever, and then the next day you might be shooting something from the beginning of the film, and then like later on in that day you might be shooting something that comes right at the end. So there's never a lot of continuity around the way things are shot. So you need to, in your head, constantly give the actors and everyone context around things, and you need to have a lot of answers for questions, because when something's going to get plugged into a sequence that hasn't been shot yet, or is going to be shot down the road, you need to give a lot of explanations around that for the actors and everything else. So that was one thing that really saved me, was having been an editor. I always in my mind knew what shot was going to become before the shot that we were currently doing, and what shot in the edit was going to come straight after it. So I always knew kind of where it plugged into my bigger picture. And if I hadn't had that editing experience, I wouldn't have been able to visualize it that way. And I think that's one of the reasons the film kind of feels slick, well produced, is because we were always thinking about that as we were going through. My producer and I were always kind of keeping a track on where we were. And maybe it sounds a bit obvious to say it that way, but it's really crucial that you have that editing background, because you will become a more efficient director if you're a good editor.
Oh, editing, journalism. Yeah, that's what we had to do. And back then we did it the old like you did, the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, speaking of, like, you are a big collector. Do you have favorite labels? Do you have like ones that like kind of stand out to you?
Of course I do. I mean, obviously in Australia, I'm a huge fan of Umbrella, and I'm really close with all the guys that are behind that label, and I do a lot of work with them. I help them with, I do a lot of their trailer cut downs for television, and for cinema releases. I do a lot of extras for them. I've done even a series of trailer compilations that I help with them with that as well, Drive-In Delirium. So I love Umbrella. I'm really close to those guys. But in terms of labels, international labels, I like all the same labels, obviously, that you do. I'm an Arrow guy. I love Scream Factories. I'm doing amazing stuff. I mean, Shout in general, just a great label. I love Vinegar Syndrome. I love Severin. I mean, all the same stuff. My collection will be filled with the same labels that you've got. And
we have a lot of the same films, man.
We do. We really do. I think your collection is probably a bit more better represented overall, but I've done all right. I've certainly blown a lot of cash over the years on it.
Do you have a favorite piece, like in your collection? We were just asked by Warlock there, a favorite like physical media release that something stands out to you.
I do have one of the last year that I love. I think, and it's also because it's one of my favorite movies of all time. But this release was.
That is gorgeous, man.
Just absolutely stunning from second sight. I was compelled to write to them, actually, just as a fan, to say just how blown away I was with the job they did on this release. That's a truly exceptional release.
That's one I don't have, that I'm very jealous of.
For a while to get this, Aaron. I'm gonna next time I'm flush, I might have to get you the 4K version. I think they've got a less deluxe version now. That one might be going out of print now, but we must rectify that situation. It's a great release.
because there's so many good. Umbrella, by the way, I think is underrated, especially here in North America, and
Yeah,
so many good films that I found. Fair Game. I want to make sure I get the title
yeah,
right.
the game's great.
Excellent release. I love that release. Yeah, one of my viewers sent me that once actually. I watched it and rewatched it, and they do like the new Sunburn uh, ones where they take a lot of like the classic Australian films. I think the latest one's We Are the Never Never. That's
Right,
coming
right.
in, and I know that they're starting to get a lot more like the Beyond Genres has become popular with a lot of stuff they do there.
That's
But
right.
they do so much. Like there's such a wide range. The Drive and Deliriums again have been, I think, their most popular things. That's really got them over, especially over here in North America. Trailer
Mhm.
compilations are huge here, and the Drive and Deliriums. I don't have any of them myself yet, but they are fantastic. They're my
Well, we don't want to give away the secret sauce in Driving Delirium, but these are definitely not just trailer compilations where trailers have been taken from other Blu-rays and put together. I won't explain exactly how much work goes into these Drive-In Deliriums, but in many cases, and this we're talking over a typical volume of Drive-In Delirium. We're talking this runs to the hours. These trailers are restored on a shot by shot basis, not on a trailer by trailer basis. These are put together like there's a painstaking degree of work that goes into this, and it's probably not obvious because it's they're relatively budget titles and things, but the amount of man hours that goes into these Drive-In Delirium things are insane. They are passion projects by people who really love trailers. So it's not just some sort of quick cash grab. You couldn't pay if you were paying market rate for the man hours that go into making these releases possible. They would be commercially unviable. The Umbrella would have to charge such stupid amounts of money because these things go for 7 hours, right? The average Drive-In
it's
Delirium.
insane.
There's originally we did them as a DVD project, right? So there were these initially, and these back in this day, these were just kind of compilations of trailers from DVD and whatever, and it was just kind of a fun way to put all the trailers in one place. That evolved once it went to Blu-ray, and it became not just a kind of compilation project, but much more of a restoration project. There's just a lot of awesome marketing stuff from the 70s and 80s that would eventually get lost to time, and when if let it not happen, but when the format does go away, it'll be the end of a lot of this stuff. You just won't be able to see a lot of these trailers except for crappy generation copies on YouTube and stuff. So the thinking behind these was to actually have a definitive collection of marketing materials from that era. And I used to copy VHS to VHS tape. That's how I used to collect movies, was just dubbing stuff I rented from the
Same
stores.
here.
And I had a separate tape that I'd put all the trailers onto, because I love trailers. That passion for trailers, like we talked about earlier, is what led me to do that fake trailer for I Know What You Did Last Summer. So, without trailers, my love for it, I probably never would have become a filmmaker. But we really wanted to be able to preserve that whole area of marketing in proper quality and in proper HD. Now, in some cases, there's some trailers that like a 235 film may have a 185 trailer. There's been some instances where it just seemed like a really great idea to actually recreate the trailer in 235 rather than actually 185. So a version of the trailer that never actually really existed, but the movie's so gorgeous in that frame that actually it's really lovely to see what the trailer would look like in that format. So Driving Delirium is very special, and the latest one comes out on April 7th, will be the last one for the foreseeable future. Just because of the amount of man hours it takes, it's just that project will take a pause for a while. It may not come back, but it may come back down the road in some form. But I strongly recommend people to, if you don't have them and you do love trailer compilations, support all make sure you go get all the trailer traumas as well. If you're a fan of the trailer compilation, it's important to support all these labels. Don May at Synapse did a great series on 42nd Street series on trailer compilations. But it's important to support all that stuff because they're the kind of cool little boutique release things that I love about Blu-ray. That you're never going to get a trailer compilation on Netflix. That's something that can only exist on physical media.
Exactly.
So,
This is not something you're going to see on a streaming service.
That's right.
And I know if you do, they're just going to put out like crappy quality trailers. That's what they're going to do.
That's right. They're not going to get. No one's going to care to that degree to give you a trailer compilation that looks like that. So that's one of the beauties of a label like Umbrella is they are all about the fans. They are about people who love these movies, and they're an important sort of archivist of Australian films as well. So yeah, I know there's a box set coming with the first 5 Drive-In Deliriums, and it won't include the latest one. You'll have to buy that separately. But I highly recommend picking up, if you haven't got them, that box set will sell out really, really quickly. It's going to be in very limited numbers. So if you're interested, I would definitely grab that one as quickly as you can. And then I believe maybe down the track there might be a box set coming with all 6. I'm not sure, but don't hold me to that. Don't hold out waiting for that one to happen because that project may not happen. So
yeah, grab it now, guys.
Yeah,
there's a reason Drive-In Delirium is known. The reason it's known throughout the community is because the love that's put into it shows when you put that in your machine. It shows on the screen.
Yeah. Well, my contribution is creating the menu movies as well. So I wrote the score for the motion menu that goes, and I create all the. The weirdest thing is creating a trailer for a trailer compilation, and I came up with a format where we kind of flash all the titles of the movies that are in the collection, but you can see all those trailers on YouTube. Yeah, not the easiest thing to make a trailer for a trailer compilation. It's kind of like, how do you do? Trying to figure out how that would work, but yeah, no, I've had my hand in all of them from the very beginning in some form or another. So I'm really super proud of those that series. Mark and I always wanted to do the world's best trailer compilation, genre trailer compilation, and yeah, I collect all the other ones as well. They're definitely not saying don't stick with Drive-In, don't worry about the other ones. Support all of them, but you won't find better quality versions of these trailers than you see on Drive-In Delirium. There's that's kind of the benchmark for it. So we're very proud of that.
It's nice to know that people that work on the films are actually, it's not always the case, but it's actually fans of these films that are, and you're like a true fan.
I love this stuff. It's been a passion of mine since I was 12, Aaron. So I'm 49 now. So I've been doing it for a long time, and I love it.
I'm only 49 for a few more days. So
there you go.
Yeah, then I hit the big 5-0 club. Oh, there we go. Like, I had a couple of questions there. Were there any horror directors or special effects artists that inspired you to direct films, or any ones that you want to work with?
Oh, of course. I mean, God, as a kid, making films with my friends. If you've got that Urban Legacy documentary, the Scream Factory edition, you'll see there's a little quick montage of the films I used to make on VHS with buddies in the school holidays. And we used to have that Tom Savini book, Grand Illusions, and we would have bottles of liquid latex trying to make scars and burns and things. And we used to love that Savini stuff. I've always wanted to do something with Rob Bottin. That he's kind of dropped off the radar. I always wanted to do a really great sort of Lovecraftian cosmic horror film with Rob Bottin designing some amazing effects. I love the K&B guys. Bob Kurtzman kind of struck out on his own. Now he's got a company in Ohio that do makeups. He did It Follows and a bunch of movies like that. I've kind of always wanted to work with Savini, actually, just because it seems like a lot of fun to work with Tom Savini.
He seems like a fun guy. I mean, like, I met him at a convention. He was so sweet. Yeah,
I believe he's a really lovely guy, and I always, one of my dreams was reading these books about Romero and Savini and all the fun they used to have in Pittsburgh making these movies. How much fun it would have been to go off and make a film with George Romero back in those days, and it would have been awesome. What I wouldn't give to be able to hang out with Romero and on Night Riders or something, or Creepshow, and just
oh my God,
Creepshow is like my favorite, like one of my favorite movies of all time.
Have you ever thought about an anthology?
Well, funny you say that, Aaron. I'm actually working on one right now with a whole lot of other Australian filmmakers. And I can't say too much about it because it's been in the works for 3 years and we're about to start shopping it around. But the lineup of talent that I've got for this project is pretty extraordinary. Like, James Wan's not doing it with us. He's very busy with his other projects, but pretty much name an Australian genre filmmaker of note. They're involved in this project. So it's really cool. And I've originally, Greg McLean and I were going to try and do this as a feature film years ago, and that never kind of panned out, unfortunately. But with the rise of streaming services, it seems like this would be a really good project for a streamer. And in some countries where they operate, there's local content rules, so they have to produce a certain amount of content, in Canada or whatever, if they're going to operate in that territory. And those rules haven't come into effect yet in Australia, but they very well may very soon. There's a lot of people in this industry pushing for rules like that. So this is a great project for someone like an Apple or an Amazon or a Netflix to get involved in because of the quality of the caliber of the filmmakers involved in it, but also because Australia is pretty much COVID-free country at the moment. It's a really good country to do production in. That's really all I can say about the project, but we do have an amazing American producer who's quite well known for anthologies. He did a particularly great one a while back with some famous horror directors. So we're really super excited about this thing, which we call Terra Australis, and it's going to be really fun.
Excellent. So, I'm glad we found it here first. I didn't mean to.
Yeah. I don't talk about it all that often, but I'm super excited about this project, and I have been trying to make this happen for several years. So, watch your space, man.
I mean, I'm a fan. I love the anthology, John. That's one of the things that got me into writing in the first place. Mm-hmm. I was one of those kids that was super hyper, so writing something long was hard for me. So the shorter stories. I love the twists. I grew up on the Amicus and all that old stuff.
Yeah.
So,
I love anthology. I remember staying up late at night watching Tales from the Unexpected, the Roald Dahl series, and Tales from the Dark Side. I used to love the original Twilight Zone, and even the '80s revamp of Twilight Zone was pretty bitchin' with Wes Craven and people like that doing episodes. I've always loved anthology format. So. I just wish Shudder would give the guys behind Creepshow a little bit more money so they could do a little bit more stuff. They're shooting these episodes in 2.5 days. I'm like, come on, it's Greg Nicotero. Give him some time to do it properly. I feel they've been rushed a little bit, and I wish they could have a bit more resources to do them.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the Creepshow series overall. A couple of things. I'd like them to give the Creep a bit more of a character.
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, I know they're probably trying to make it so it's not so Tales of the Crypt-esque.
Yeah, he's more like the as he appears in the Romero version, where he just sort of cackles and smiles. But I know what you mean. He seems to be lacking a little bit of personality. But I've got high hopes for season 2. A buddy of mine, Joe Lynch, director Joe Lynch, has done an episode or maybe a couple of episodes for that. So I'm really excited to see what that one's going to be like.
You were just on their podcast, actually.
Yeah, Joe and Adam Green.
Which is incredible. They do an amazing podcast.
Oh, they do, and they're just wonderful guys. And I didn't realize their podcast was so focused on giving advice to people who wanted to break into the industry. So it's really nice that they were just throwing useful information out. We would be talking about things, and they kind of stop and explain context to people. So it really is a focus on trying to help emerging, aspiring filmmakers and writers find a way in. So I thought that was great.
There we go. I'm lost for words, which I never am. There you go.
I'm just looking at some of this live chat to see what questions people are asking. Does Jamie have any favorite modern horror directors? Oh, of course I do.
Russia.
Lots of them. I thought what's his name, David Robert Mitchell, who did It Follows, was brilliant. I think James Wan's obviously someone I'm super proud of. They're coming out of Australia. he said to me when they screened Saw here in Melbourne for the first time, he said that because Lee Warnell, his writing partner and who acted in Saw, interviewed me. Lee used to host a show called Recovery on the ABC network here in Australia. And when Urban Legend came out, they had me on, and he wanted to know all about the trailer and everything that I'd done. And he followed me out to the car park after the episode was over. He was really grilling me for information on this trailer, and I told him all about it. And then that's when I saw them at the Saw screening. They said, we borrowed your idea. We made a trailer for Saw, and that's what got it in front of people. And I thought, well, that's amazing. If in any small way I've helped, give these guys, an idea how to bust into the industry, that's amazing, because James Wan's become one of the most important voices in horror, and he's a superstar. So and he's also a really gorgeous guy. Like he chased me after the screening. We're chatting in Melbourne just after the Saw screening. And he was asking me for advice. I mean, man, if I saw James Wan today, I'd be asking him for advice. He's a genius.
You paid it forward, man.
Yeah, and he's a gorgeous guy, and that made me super happy to see that success. So, yeah, no, I'm really stoked for those guys. I think Lee's become a great director in his own right too. I think Upgrade was fantastic. I thought Invisible Man was fantastic. Yeah, it's I think there's some really amazing voices coming out there. I saw a really good film. And he's got another one coming out through Spectre Vision. His name's Adam Egypt Mortimer. He made a thing called Daniel Isn't Real. That was really good.
Yeah, Shudder actually showed that one.
He's got a new one coming out through Spectre Vision that looks great. I gotta tell you how disappointed I was. Not just disappointed, how fucking outraged I am actually at Richard Stanley, who I'm such a big fan of Richard's for years, when he did Hardware and Dust Devil, and like a lot of other people, had great sympathy for him when I saw the documentary about what happened to him on the island of Valentine. They used to call it the Island of No Morale, actually, from people who worked on the film that happened here in Australia. So when he came out with Color Out of Space, I was just overjoyed for him, because I thought it really was one of the best new horror films coming out. So to then read that, and it's always a very tricky thing, because it's like, if we are to believe the woman, which I do, I have no reason to suspect that she's got any reason to make any of this stuff up at all. And by all accounts, there are multiple reports to police that this is true, even though Richard does deny it, due process and all. But the thought that a man that I admired so much, and totally destroys my theory, by the way, that the people who work in the horror genre are always good people, because they pretty much always are. To find this out about an artist that I admired just fucking enraged me, Aaron. The thought that he could treat a woman like that, I don't know what sort of monster, what sort of vile animal can treat another human being like that. But I was just gutted. I was gutted to hear it. I was gutted to have supported the guy, having not known this, as I'm sure thousands of other people are as well.
Yeah, but, it was a soul-crushing revelation.
There's all this talk about cancel culture and everything else. I mean, you do something like that, you are fucking cancelled. I mean, there shouldn't be a cancel culture issue. This should just be how things are. For too often, guys like this, like Marilyn Manson as well, have gotten away with this kind of behavior. And I just think that's absolutely despicable. Even to a lesser degree, someone like Joss Whedon, who's not a sexual deviant, but he's by all accounts a fucking bully asshole. I don't have respect for people who aren't able to make great film or television without behaving like a total asshole. I just think, if that's what you need to get you through the day, if that's your work process, then I've got no time for any of those people. I admire someone like a Don Coscarelli, who's gone his entire career being beloved by everyone he works with, because he creates an atmospheric and supportive environment around him, and people do their best work like that. And I think that's true of most people that work in the horror genre. So, to Richard Stanley, I mean, fuck you, man. That's just despicable, absolutely despicable. And I just have no time for that. I think if you look at Storm Warning, you can see where my politics come down on when it comes to people who disrespect and violate women. I find that so upsetting. And Screw him.
We need more guys like you and Coscarelli, and less, unfortunately, the Richard Stanley.
Mostly people are good people in this genre, and so they should be. It's like it's a real privilege to get to work at that level, and it just makes. I mean, look, that's one thing that drives me crazy about rude, selfish, self-involved people. It doesn't cost you anything to be kind to people. Like, you should be kind anyway. I mean, if you were raised like a decent human being, you should want to be a kind person anyway. But some of these people are in such positions of privilege who can't find it in themselves to be decent human beings. I have no time for that, Aaron. It really bothers me. And it shouldn't be some sort of novelty that you're a nice person. It should just be a default thing. It's just like be grateful for the opportunities you've been given, because there's a queue of people who'd love to have that chance. And if you can't appreciate it and treat the people around you with respect, then you don't deserve that opportunity.
That's the thing. Like, people are upset. They said, "Who's going to make the Lovecraft?" Well, there's lots of people that can make the Lovecraft. If Stanley's out of it, well, there's the people on Lovecraft Country. There's you yourself like to do Lovecraft.
I'd love
lots
to
of people waiting.
Lovecraft, yeah.
I actually would love to see you tackle Lovecraft. Actually,
well, I'm working with an amazingly talented young writer at the moment that I met through Twitter, named Mike Thorne, and he's based in Calgary. And I've been reading some of his short fiction. He's just sent me all of his published works, and he does great cosmic horror. And I was just talking with Mike yesterday, actually. We've been working on a pitch on something that we've been working on together recently lately. And I said I'd really love to find something not necessarily a Lovecraft adaptation, but to take some of his original fiction and take it to Spectrovision and say, look, let's fill the void left by Richard Stanley with some original stuff. I'd love to work with Spectrovision. I think they do some really fabulous work. And they must all be smarting over there at the moment with what happened with Stanley. So, yeah.
Well, the opening's there right now. Basically, here's the thing. Like something bad happens. It's horrible, but that opens the door for something good to happen. So,
yeah, let's hope so. Well, I just hope that Scarlett Amaris and whoever Stanley's latest partner is, who's been subjected to his cruelty, I just hope they're okay. That's the most important thing. It's just these women who have to live with that kind of abuse. It doesn't just go away. It's not something that you just forget about it after enough time's passed. They're gonna have to live with this forever.
That'll stick with you for the rest of your life.
It also sticks with you, and it really upsets me, actually. One of the things that grinds my gears.
Okay, I hate putting in. Let's get you in a better mood.
Yes.
Let's do that.
Just Stanley popped in my head on here. I could skip.
But I love the fact that you're just being open and honest. That's exactly. But you've been asking a few questions here, and I don't want to keep you too long. I don't know how long yet.
No, I'm fine. I'm good. My son and my wife have gone out shopping, so I've got the house to myself. So I'm good.
So you're like, I rarely get the house to myself. We're all, stuck inside now. Well, I don't want the house to myself. She's like that.
Watch what you say, brother.
But speaking of like directors and stuff, and like actors, so there still, I guess we still don't have like as much. We're getting there, like female, like I guess representation, writing, directing, and stuff in the genre. It's slowly getting there. Are there any that you've ever worked with, or that you wanted to work with, or?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I'm actually so proud that I'm going to have an opportunity to work with Natalie Erica James. She made an incredible film called Relic. I don't know if you've seen Relic, but I think it's come out on Blu-ray through possibly, I think, Scream Factory. I'm not sure, but it's an absolutely brilliant movie. She's a young first-time filmmaker who's just got stupid amounts of talent. She's so incredibly talented and a gorgeous girl, and so just so lovely. And I'm really excited. I'm going to have a chance to work with her on this project coming up. And Jennifer Kent's another one who made The Babadook and The Nightingale. Incredible, female Australian voice in the genre. It's wonderful that more women are getting to tell genre stories. And I just think overall this year there's been a much bigger focus on diversity and giving these people, the underrepresented voices, a chance to be heard. and that's long overdue.
We're asked here by Ragman, is there any film that you could go back and tweak it all? Would you want to keep everything as the way it is? I think.
Oh, ask any filmmaker, is there anything you want to go back and tweak? I mean, Ragman, the answer to that is, of course. No filmmaker doesn't want to go back and have a chance to tinker with a few things. That just comes with the territory.
Yeah.
Although it's saying that, I was telling Aaron earlier, I did rewatch Long Weekend the other day, and pretty much in terms of how performances were delivered in that movie, I'm still really proud of the way I worked with Jim and Claudia on that film. And there's not that much in Long Weekend that I would fiddle with out of all.
And it's good, like especially when it was something that like was a bit problematic when you're at the time. Like you get so many years away from it, and you go back and look at it again. You're like, you know what? I'm proud of what I did right here.
Yeah, I hadn't seen
nice to be able to do that.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen that way, but look, filmmakers are compromised at the best of times. I mean, all you can really do, unless you've really made a film, it's hard to understand just how much pressure is on you with time, and ultimately comes down to doing the best possible work that you can do on the day, and the best possible work that you can get other people to do on the day, given all the different the constraints on budget and time that exist on a movie. It's it's never an ideal situation where every director gets, we're not all Stanley Kubrick, we can't all do 120 takes of everything, right? So it's learning to be learning to work with compromise, learning to make sure the compromises don't impact in a negative way on your movie too much, and also being realistic, not being a jerk that doesn't get the day's work completed because you're an inefficient dickhead. You need to be able to be efficient and creative and pragmatic, and it's a real skill. The directors, a lot of responsibilities the director's got every day, but staying on budget and on schedule is a really important one, because that can quickly derail a movie very quickly if you don't do that.
I know that you're a big fan. Like Richard Franklin was the guy that you met, that you liked, that kind of inspired you. Were there any other directors that really that were inspirations to you when you were?
Oh, of course. I love Sam Raimi. I love John Carpenter. I love Wes Craven and George Romero and David Cronenberg and Stuart Gordon. I would every time we would start a new movie, I would have my cinematographer sit down with me and watch Catherine Bigelow's early movies like Near Dark and Blue Steel, in terms of the beautiful cinematography and the way they use long lenses and just all sorts of camera techniques. We'd watch Rennie Harlan's Nightmare on Elm Street and prison movie sometimes because he's a really great visual stylist. And there were a lot of things in those films that I really responded to as I was growing up. Not always the subject matter and the story so much as just the style and the cinematic language that a director might deploy on a certain film. So, I've loved. Dawn of the Dead is one of my favorite movies. It's not a particularly stylish movie though. It's kind of shot pretty basic, So I love movies for all different reasons. But some filmmakers, I love their visual aesthetic a lot. And Catherine Bigelow is one of those directors that I just think is extraordinary. There's some work she did in Point Break that's just stunning, and that's kind of a popcorn action movie. But she had a device called the Pogo Cam that they invented for that movie. And there's a scene in the FBI office where Keanu Reeves going and he's talking to the police captain, and the camera's doing some pretty crazy stuff for early 90s technology. There's an opening sequence in Strange Days that's mind-blowing. It's like, so there's a lot of directors that have influenced me in lots of different ways. It's like that's what it's all about, though. We all inspire each other. Maybe nobody more than Sam Raimi. There's nobody moves the camera like Sam, and it's all the films that we emulated with my buddies growing up. We were very, very inspired by Sam Raimi's camera work. There's also a really fun movie that feels like what if Sam Raimi shot a John Hughes movie. It's called 3 O'Clock High by Phil Journeau. And it's kind of shot like a Raimi film at times. So, I think you can employ those kind of crazy camera techniques in all sorts of genres if you do it the right way. But I've always tried to strike a balance between being a little sort of formal with my style, but also having a little bit of fun with the camera too.
You mentioned some of my favorite films, which makes me so happy. And by the way, for mentioning Blue Steel, thank you. Nobody mentions Blue Steel, and it's such a fun little film. And of course, Strange Days is one that I remember watching with my cousin Roger. We totally loved that movie. I love Catherine Eagle's work anyway. I think she's fantastic.
She really is. And when she won the Oscar, I was jumping for joy. I was
same here.
Became not only the first woman to win the Oscar, but she beat out her ex-husband, who just made the biggest movie of all time. So it must have been a good day to be Catherine Eagle.
Yeah, that had to be fun. That'd be a special sweet spot to that.
Yeah, awesome.
Sam Raimi, there's a guy to work with. That would be an amazing collaboration. Because he does say, like, in a way, he's the godfather of the modern day superhero film that we got now.
Sure is.
And I don't mean Spider-Man, I mean Darkman.
Yeah, that's right. I was very lucky. I got, when the first Spider-Man came out, I got to go to a screening of that through a friend of mine who worked in the editorial department. And it was the very first screen that Raimi had with Laura Ziskin at Sony. And I remember rocking up there one morning to go and watch the movie, and being there with Sam, and I had my Evil Dead, the Book of the Dead thing for him to sign with me like a total nerd and everything. And he signed it Beast Witches. I thought that was great.
I love the Spider-Man. I love his Spider-Man films.
Yeah, he's great. He's a great filmmaker. And I mean, what filmmaker wasn't inspired in the 80s by Evil Dead? You know, I just remember the first time I saw that, just going, I'm like, this guy is 19 years old. He's made that movie, and it's become a massive hit on video. I saw the remake again for the first time with my son. I saw it when it came out, and we watched it again the other day. It's really good. That's a really good movie. It's only the second time I'd seen it in years, and I thought Fede Alvarez did a really good job of that.
Because that was like, here's something that, let's be honest, when people said that that this movie is being remade, a lot of people got nervous. I got nervous.
Yeah, but it's almost like you're going to remake Jaws or something. It's like, really, you're going to mess with, like, you know, Evil Dead? And anyway, but it was pretty good.
Yeah, when you think about remake Jaws, well, they remade Jaws a million times. That's fine.
Well,
in a way.
Remake of Jaws. I watched Jaws again last night with the 4K. I was thinking, what am I going to watch before I go to bed? And I thought, I'll just put a little bit of Jaws on, and I ended up watching the whole thing, as I always do. I can never turn off Jaws.
Last movie I saw on a drive-in was Jaws, actually.
Was it? I saw Jaws as a kid in the drive-in for the first time. The first time I saw it was at the drive-in. Yeah, it's extraordinary. It's just one of those films that's just like, you know, you can't improve upon perfection. And I consider Jaws a perfect movie. There's not many films you can say that's just like you wouldn't alter anything. The film's extraordinary. I love that movie.
Now, there's certain films I think that are almost like people. I don't know if there's anything that's untouchable, but Jaws is pretty close to being the untouchable.
The Mr. Jaws, baby.
I got 2 Jaws T-shirts, man. Just cause.
What else we got here? What other questions have people got for us?
Grizzly. Remember Grizzly with William done by
William
Girdler?
Yeah, I've got it over there. Grizzly. Actually, I've got to order the sequel, the unfinished sequel. I know it's going to be dreadful. I love nature gone ape shit movies. I love them, and I can never get enough of those. Just in my collection.
Are you a Day of the Animals fan? What?
It's Day of the Animals is batshit crazy, but yeah, no, I kind of dig it, man. I kind of like those weird Girdler things. The cheesier the better, man. The pack and all that stuff. I've got stacks of them here. I'm just shelves and shelves of them. So Long Weekend, I guess, was the closest I came to making an actual nature.
Yeah, you kind of went there.
The Long Weekend's a lot more ambiguous and it's more of a character study than a nature, fights back movie.
The Severin bundle is coming out from Grizzly T-shirt. You can get yourself a Grizzly T-shirt, Jamie.
I've got so many horror T-shirts. It's like my wife's like, can we get rid of some of this stuff? I just got way too much of this stuff, Aaron.
Jason asked you what's your opinion on the remake of Friday the 13th? What do you think of the Michael Bay Friday 13th?
Oh, what did I think of it? A lot of people really hate that movie, but I kind of enjoyed it actually. I Yeah, it's like it doesn't quite feel like one of the Paramount Fridays. It's kind of, and I don't like that it doesn't have Harry Manfredini's score.
Yeah.
But I think there's enough stuff in it. Like I enjoyed it. I've certainly seen slasher films, and even slasher films in that franchise that I've enjoyed a lot less than that Friday remake. I know it's not a particular popular point of view because a lot of people, for some reason, really hate that movie. But I'm not one of them.
Actually, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not, again, not Paramount, but thank God it's not the New Line. So, but yeah, it was nice to see them go back to like a more of a like a Jason as like, because I'm always there's usually two mindsets. Like Jason died in part 1 and that's it, and it's supernatural, or Jason died in part 4, and I'm the Jason died in part 4 person.
I'm the same. I love the first 4 Friday movies the most, and I do kind of dig 6 as well. I think I would have enjoyed 7 a lot more if they hadn't cut all the special effects of Beatles out of the movie. I think that was a real shame.
Yeah, one of the last, unfortunately.
And by all accounts, they were amazing effects. That we would have been treated to some really great stuff. So, but I love the first 4. I mean, I grew up with them. I have so many fond memories of those movies and sleepovers with mates, and we watched them countless times. But one thing I'm bummed, I don't have a 3D TV, so I can't enjoy that Friday 3 transfer that Scream just put out in proper 3D.
Looks really good. I have a 3D TV.
Well, I've seen it in 3D 4 times at the cinema. They've had revivals of it, and every time they have it, I've gone and see it on the big screen. And it's a fun movie on its own, right? But in 3D, it's a blast. So
it is.
I really, you've got to see the third one in 3D to really have the maximum amount of fun with it. I'm so sorry. That's my phone.
That's okay.
I'm just I'll call you later. Sorry about that, Aaron.
But no, like I'm old enough that I saw it in theater, in 3D originally.
Right. Yeah, I didn't get to see it in 3D. Well, we're the same age, so you must have. I don't know how you managed to get in because it was rated R here, and I wasn't allowed to go see R movies at that point.
Lived in a small town.
It was in 1983. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see it in its original run, but I certainly saw it several times after that.
But I still. Would you like to do a 3D film? Would you like that kind of? Because there's a certain headache behind it.
What I like to do, I think a 3D film's a lot more fun to watch than they are to make. I think it's a real technical headache. No, I can't say that I've got any itching desire to be able to poke objects at the audience and stuff like that. But if you could find the right script that wasn't about the gimmick of 3D, where the actual 3D could really work to your advantage, then maybe there'd be a reason to do it that way. That said, I did love Avatar in 3D. But it was actually proper 3D, and it wasn't retrofitted 3D like I remember seeing Clash of the Titans, and Liam Neeson's forehead and his nose were occupying different spatial planes.
Yeah,
really.
Should not have been done like that. Now, speaking of that, like, totally lost my train of thought there. But there's one I was going to ask you about, if you'd seen it, or what you thought of it actually. And I totally lost my train of thought.
That's right.
Because Liam Neeson got in my head.
Through these comments here, is there going to be a sequel to Storm Warning? I don't know how we'd do a sequel.
Yeah.
Everyone's dead at the end of that movie. What have we got here?
There's one that stands on its own.
Yeah. I've never really set up any of my movies other than Urban Legend, I guess, for a sequel. Even with Urban Legend, it wasn't set up so much as a sequel. It was just kind of a fun it seemed like a clever, fun way to end the movie. It's another way of resurrecting a killer for that last, the last final gasp. We sort of did it in a different way, resurrecting Brenda the way we did. So, yeah. But never imagined a sequel to Valentine or any of the other ones. Certainly no sequel to Long Weekend, that's for sure.
I could imagine a sequel. I'll see. Valentine's one of those movies that I kind of wish, because you got this iconic mask, and spoiler alert, killer kind of gets away.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not.
I've actually asked about a Valentine sequel, and I don't know that it made enough money for Warner Brothers that they would actually consider doing another one. Certainly not the current regime at Warner Brothers, I don't think. So that's probably not going to happen, sadly.
So there you go. But never know. Another company, another.
Never say never. That's right.
But in all honesty, it's like it's what's going forward. It's like going forward from that, like all the stuff that you make and you learn, and that becomes your films that have made that gone out there and reached urban legend, Valentine, have become like classic, not just classics, but cult classics. So these are ones that are gonna probably outlive both of us, and people are gonna be discovering these years down the road. I do think that Storm Warning and Long Weekend are going to get there too. We just need to get good releases of those so people can start to get the groundswell and find out exactly how great they are.
Yeah, that's right. Because the bare bones DVD that came out of Storm Warning just doesn't cut it anymore, and we do need a proper Region A Blu-ray of that film. I'd love to see Long Weekend get a release too. So you never know. There's a beautiful
original title.
There's a German Blu-ray of Long Weekend that I always watch, which has all the extras. It's got the commentaries and the works, and that's the addition to have of that movie. If anyone's looking to collect that,
I gotta look that up, because all I got right now is, unfortunately for Long Weekend, is the one that you showed on camera.
Right. Well, the German one looks like this. That's the best release to get of Long Weekend.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's a ripper, and it looks transfers beautiful.
Somebody wants to know if you'd ever want to do a creature feature.
Oh, absolutely. I've always wanted to do a good monster movie. Love to. Would love to do that.
There's a way to get Savani. When I spoke with Savani, he said that the thing he's most proud of doing, out of all the stuff that he did, was Fluffy.
It's
from
true.
Creepshow.
Yeah.
Because everybody asks him to do throats and like all that all those kills, but he rarely gets asked to do monsters. And
yeah, that's right. No, I think it would be really fun to do I love to do some sort of crazy bonkers film with lots of creatures in it. So yeah, that'd be great fun. I'll be up for the challenge.
Get your Nightbreed out there.
Maybe not Nightbreed, maybe more Gremlins, but like more demented than that. But I'd love to do something really fun with creatures. That was maybe the Lovecraftian thing can have a bit of creature stuff in it, maybe. But I'm definitely looking down the track doing some sort of cosmic horror stuff. I think that'd be really fun.
You ask, what do you think the new Texas Chainsaw coming out?
What is the new one about? Do we know much about it?
It's for what we know so far, is it's a direct sequel to the first one.
Again, didn't they already do a direct sequel to the first one? Didn't they already, like, not the Toby Hooper one, but didn't they already do one of the Leather Faces or something was supposed to be a direct sequel to the first one?
Texas Chainsaw 3D was a direct sequel.
That's right. So what's different about the new one then? They've already done a direct sequel to the first one.
He's old in this one, but he wasn't in 3D as well. I'm not quite sure, actually.
I've lost track. I'm one of the ones who loved the third, the New Line Texas Chainsaw movie, even though it was kind of butchered in post. I remember seeing that with my brother in LA. I mean, we went to America after I graduated high school. My brother and I went and saw Leatherface in the cinema, and I think it's got Ken Foree in it, man. It was actually pretty fun. I kind of dug the third one, but I really love the Demented second one. But not many more after that. I sort of didn't mind the Marcus Nispel remake. I thought, it's never going to be a replacement for the original movie, but I thought, no, it had some things going for it. But yeah, I haven't been hugely excited about many of the other Texas Chainsaw movies, I've got to say. I've never actually even watched the fourth one, the one with Matthew McConaughey and Renee Zellweger.
It's insane. You got to watch it.
I've got it here. I've just never got around to it.
Like a night, we have a couple of drinks. Said Matthew McConaughey, hands down, best part of that film, by the way.
Okay.
I know he's embarrassed about it and stuff, but he's a guy with a thing on his leg that he uses a remote control to move his. It's nuts, but it's nuts in a fun way. It's especially good if you got someone to watch it with you too.
It's my favorite.
It's her favorite, actually.
I'll make sure I watch it.
But yeah, apparently they're bringing Sally back for the new one, and I guess the actress has passed away, so I guess they're using someone else.
Oh, okay.
Because Marion Burns has passed on, so.
And who's directing it? Do you know who the director is?
I don't know. I'm not sure who the director is. I know. God, I should know too. But I'm supposed to know this stuff, but I forget. But I'm like Kubrick. I actually like the prequel Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake film more than I like the.
Yeah. That actually wasn't bad either. That wasn't bad. Yeah. So what do we
Worst is Leatherface, which is I agree with actually.
You didn't like the third one?
So,
yeah.
Part 3. No, Leatherface, the one that came, kind of the newer one.
Oh, the new one, right?
With the kid.
Yeah, I think I remember seeing. Is that the one with? Yeah, I think I remember seeing that one.
We have to guess who Leatherface is.
That's it. Yeah.
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 So
I've put it out of my mind already. It was
the same here. I was asked to review it.
You asked to review it, and you declined, did you?
No, I had to watch. Like when I review a movie, I usually watch it like 3 to 4 times in order to do the review.
Right.
So that was a hard review.
Yeah, that's taking one for the team, Aaron.
Lots of tea for that one. Special stuff in my tea for that one.
You watched it, so the rest of us don't have to. I'm just going through some of these other questions. What are people asking me? I own it under the title Nature's Revenge. What's Nature's Revenge? Are they thinking of Nature's Grave, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's what it means.
Wall said there's a Canadian DVD release for Long Weekend that has the original title and great features. Yeah, good old Canada didn't screw it up on me. I love Canada. Someone said, what did I think of Sir Alfred Hitchcock as a horror director? It's Hitchcock. I think we all are.
Favorite Hitchcock? There's a. What's your favorite?
Oh, it's really hard to choose a favorite Hitchcock, but I'd probably go with Psycho, or I love Rear Window. Which was my favorite Hitchcock?
It's like picking your favorite kids. It's hard, man.
How can you choose between Psycho, Vertigo? I don't know. I mean, I'll say Psycho, but I love so many Hitchcock movies. I think Richard Franklin did a great job with Psycho too. I think that's a really amazing movie that was way better than it had really any right to be. You know, it was going to be a TV movie at one point, and that's a terrific film. I find it holds up every time I watch it again. It's like, no, that is a really terrific piece of work. And Anthony Perkins did a gorgeous job in that film. He did a terrific job making that character sympathetic, which is not an easy thing to do, you know.
Franklin is sadly missed because he was quite the genius when it comes to the work that he put out there. Yeah,
he sure was. Actually, there's a beautiful release of his movie Road Games.
I need to get that actually. I keep showing it to my better half until she buys it for me. That's the Indicator one. That is so nice.
It's really lovely. It's great too. The artwork with the highway, markers and stuff. I always like that art. Very good film. That's because I just was reminded of it. We were talking about Rear Window. Road Games was Everett's attempt to do Rear Window in a truck. It's pretty clever.
It is good. I mean, I love Rear Window. I mean, actually, Road Games. When I saw that, I was a kid. Well, teenager probably when I saw Road Games, and I saw it on VHS. Of course, the first time I saw that, and it just stuck with me for like so long. It was one of those that just kind of haunted me, but in a good way. I kept trying to introduce people to it. It was one of there's certain films that would stick with me, and I would every time I met somebody new that I thought was kind of a future like film fan, like a friend, somebody, a kindred spirit. There's certain films that I'd show them, and Road Games was one of those films. And
Yeah, it's a
just
wonderful film.
fantastic. And the ending, gotta love that ending.
It's brilliant. Well, you know, that's Tarantino's favorite Australian film.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Well, I can't fault him on that one. It's a fantastic movie, and it's so different from Patrick, which is again,
Sure.
which I think is a fantastic film.
Yeah, it's funny. There's only been a couple of Australian remakes, and they've both been done by me and my buddy Mark Hartley, because he remade Patrick
Oh yeah, that's right.
in 2012. So yeah, and both scripts by Everett Durov. So it's interesting that it's a couple of the guys behind Not Quite Hollywood were the ones to go out and remake those iconic genre films.
Remaking the classics,
Yeah,
but doing them well. I like Patrick's remake actually.
yeah, it's very stylish. Mark did a great job with that.
It's but again, hard shoes to step into when you overdo Franklin.
It sure is. Well, it's
Did you ever
interesting.
see the Patrick sequel? They did the Italian one.
Oh God, yeah, we were watching it. My God, Everett was just mortified. It's like, yeah, very, very, very hardcore. I've got to get the Severin edition just as a completist, just to add to my Patrick.
I had to pick it up.
Yeah. Well, I was just saying, Mark Hartley, the director of Not Quite Hollywood, and Patrick and I, we both went to the same high school as Richard Franklin.
Oh wow!
So we were really both inspired. The year that I started at high school, Richard had just come out with Psycho 2. So that was kind of just as I was beginning to discover my love of cinema and horror movies. So to know that Richard Franklin had gone from the school that I was at all the way to USC to go to school with Carpenter and then on to make films in Hollywood, I think maybe if Richard hadn't done that, I don't know that I would have had believed that it was even possible to have even tried. So I might have just become a film fan and never actually tried to make films. I think I can give Richard credit for that. When my graduating film at film school was screened, I'd sent a copy of it and a ticket to the screenings into Richard's mailbox, just to see if he would be interested in looking at it. And he came along to the screening that night. So I had the best date of anyone at the film school. I had Richard sitting next to me, and we watched Silent Number together and stuff. And he was an amazingly great support. And then the very first job I got at Fred Skepsi's company, the Film House, was a commercial that Richard was directing. So I was editing this commercial for Richard as well. So yeah, it was cool. Our paths intersected at several junctures along the way. So it was really nice to honor him and dedicate Not Quite Hollywood to him.
It's incredible the way that it goes, like your journey there, and the people that inspired you and actually got to people you up. That's what you want to see, and that's what you normally see in this community.
Yeah,
it's like people that inspire and help others.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about the horror communities. There's so many people who support each other. Deborah Hill was a huge supporter of mine, and I met her when I showed her my trailer, and I got support. I mean, I told you Robert Rodriguez was wonderful. Wes Craven had dinner with me and Silvio Horta one night and was amazingly supportive. It's really important to support the next generation of people coming through. So I'm always all about that. I'm always trying to help as many people as I possibly can in any way I can help them. Young guy that I know has just made a short film, and I'm about to write some music for that short film for him. So he's really excited that we're going to do that together. And it's just important to do stuff like that if you can help people, because people help me. That's how it goes.
Cycle that keeps it going.
Got to do it. And that's the good thing about the horror genre is people are, they're cool like that.
Here's a question right there. So do you have any thoughts on going from 35 millimeter to digital? Like pros and cons.
There are huge advantages to digital, but there's also something that you lose in the process too. So, film's a chemical process, obviously, and then digital's an electronic process. So there are always going to be fundamentally different ways of capturing light, either on celluloid or on an electronic sensor. It's just fundamentally different. You can. There's some brilliant work done in digital, and I was really pleased. Long Weekend, the ARRI system we were using at the time, has moments where it does feel almost film-like, but it's never quite the same thing as film. But audiences now are so used to these crisp digital things you'll see on Netflix and stuff that sometimes film can look a little fuzzy or whatever, to a modern audience's eye. But for me, there's no replacing the way that film captures light. And Christopher Nolan still shoots all his stuff on film, and you can see. You look at Tenet next to some shot digitally. Tenet looks better. It just looks. Film's got a quality, an organic quality to it. That digital, I'm not running digital down at all. They're just different looks, and but in terms of efficiencies and things, digital's wonderful because what you see is what you get. With film, you're always waiting till the next day before you can look at stuff. So it sometimes became quite traumatic for the focus operator. If there was some concern about focus, we wouldn't really know till the next day to see exactly what we got. Whereas with digital, what you see is what you get. And you do have an enormous amount of latitude or grading in a digital image. So you shoot something in raw format. You have, a lot of the art of cinematography maybe gets lost because you have so much latitude in digital to create the look in post, whereas on film you need to know what you're doing, and it's very important the way these things are lit and exposed at the time. There's a massive dynamic range with digital photography, so those things are less crucial. But they both have their advantages, and if it's up to me, I'd love to go back and shoot something again on film. I just think it looks better. But the reality is, working with smaller budgets, working on film would just eat up way too much of your money. Film's got an organic quality that digital doesn't quite have. But I know a lot of filmmakers who prefer shooting digitally. David Lynch is one of them. So he said he'd never go back to film. So each to their own.
Sure. You're asking, do you like Criterion? You asked that a couple times actually, apparently.
Of course, I love Criterion. Yeah, I wish they'd move into 4K, but other than that, they're great.
Crash should have been their 4K. It should have been a 4K. That's why Arrow. Just say.
Exactly. Arrow are doing great stuff. But no, of course I love Criterion.
Yeah, Arrow, did you know that they'd recently folded the Academy label right directly into Arrow Video, so there's no separate Academy anymore, which is a shame because there's a little bit of difference to it. A bit of prestige, I guess, for the Academy.
Yeah, that's right. But as long as they keep releasing quality stuff, I don't mind which way they badge it. But they're a very important company. I was very pleased when they expanded into America. It's nice to see that they've got two different setups now.
And they've been so successful with it too. I'm very excited about their Italian crime, the Euro crime set that they're putting out now.
Yeah, it made me really happy to see that they were successful enough with physical media that it warranted opening up another branch in America. So that's a good sign. People keep talking about the decline of physical media, but it's almost feels like it's never been a better time to be a collector of physical media. I mean, the amount of incredible releases that we get every year that we treated to. Hard to imagine years ago that some of the things would exist, that we've got our hands on lately. I mean, it's crazy, really.
Especially in the formats that they've come into. Let's be honest, when we started collecting, a lot of the stuff that's getting special editions right now would have been an EP VHS in a bin somewhere.
That's right. That's true.
Would have been as good as
Like a copy of Texas Chainsaw Massacre was an extended play, crappy VHS pan and scan thing. And now there's multiple editions. There's that Arrow edition, which is gorgeous, the Texas 2, and Scream Factory did a terrific edition as well. And, I'm sure it's only a matter of time before we get it on 4K, like so much other good stuff. And, that was almost inconceivable years ago.
Speaking of these companies, because we talked about this before we came on here, actually, Vinegar Syndrome put out their pre-order. I told you the titles over there, Six String Samurai, and is that a buy for you? Is that a? Oh
yeah, I'll pick that up for sure. I was mentioning Six String Samurai was interesting because I know that's the film that Don Coscarelli discovered Brian Tyler, and Brian ended up scoring Bubba Hotep for Don and ended up becoming one of the biggest composers in Hollywood. And it was really fun because when Don was doing Bubba Hotep, I was in LA, and I just remember shooting all the extras for Don in Brian's studio. and it was all because he discovered him through Six String Samurai. So yeah, no, it's a good film. I'll pick it up.
Yeah, I think it's a nice. So I went for the. I had to go for the bundle. You know me, man.
Oh yeah.
So Surf 2 was there. I heard that there's apparently some incredible feature work being done on that film. So they do a good job with their features, like the Spookies documentary they did, and the Beastmaster one, Coscarelli there.
It was terrific. There was a really good doco on that Spookies disc about Vipco, that label, the UK label.
Yeah.
It's really interesting what a chance of that guy was.
It's fun. I mean, like it's the first time I've seen somebody take TV horror seriously, so that's always a good sign. I'm hoping to see more of that type of stuff.
Yeah, it would be nice to see some really proper releases of some of the classic TV horror films. There's been some really good ones.
There's so many, like you, like me. We're around the same age. We probably grew up like seeing some of these like movies on TV that creeped us out.
Yeah,
and people forget. Like they think, well, it's all Lifetime. No, there's some really creepy stuff out there.
It was. Yeah, but it would be really nice to see. I mean, people would forget that Duel was, originally wasn't it made for television as well originally?
Yeah, it was actually
released in Europe. But talk about a great TV horror film. Wow.
Now that's anytime somebody starts like dissing on TV horror, you just made Duel, and that answers the question right there.
Well, there's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, and there was some terrific stuff happening in TV.
That terrified me. Cam Darby's Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. When I was a kid, I was being babysat, and it was on late night, and I was up by myself watching it because my babysitter had fallen asleep.
Right.
And I was so scared. Those little creatures freaked the hell out of me.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, no, there's definitely some good stuff done for television over the years. So yeah, I'd be really stoked to see some of that stuff getting properly looked after on the format. What else we got here from people? Just getting through. Rob Zombie's directing The Monsters. I'm not much of a Monsters.
He's a huge Monsters fan, so.
Are you a Monsters fan? I never really got into Monsters, but
Zombie is.
I know Zombies. Yeah, I know he likes the Monsters.
I was more Addams Family, but I think my better half's more Monsters.
Right. Which was Fred Gwynn? He was the Monsters, wasn't he? Yeah,
the Monsters. Yeah,
he was.
Monsters. I love Fred Gwynn.
Me too. I was actually thinking about the original Pet Sematary just the other day. How good that film is. My younger brother we went and saw it. He had nightmares forever about the sister Zelda with the spinal meningitis on the bed.
Oh my God.
For months. He just recovered from the guy in Poltergeist who pulled his face off in the mirror, and then the Pet Sematary thing came along and fucked him up. Good movie, really good movie.
Usually, my aunt, she's passed away now, but we rented. I was staying at her place, and we rented Pet Sematary, and she didn't know anything about it. And she was pregnant at the time.
Right.
So she was, when the scene with the little boy at the beginning of the film kind of messed her up a little bit.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff in that movie that's much harder to watch when you do become a parent. I watched it as a kid and I was pretty freaked out by it, but then watched it after my son had been born. I was like, wow, this is a devastating movie. It really is emotionally.
It is. King put it back in his drawer for a reason.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading the book as a kid and just being traumatized. I don't think I could handle the book now. The film's freaky enough for me, but it's a really distressing story. Bird of
Crystal Plumage has come to 4K.
I saw that. Very nice. I'll be picking that up.
That'll be good. That's one that's a get for me right away.
Yeah, I'll definitely grab that too. What else is cool that's coming up? I'm just trying to think what else I need to be saving up for.
Well, for me, it's what I got to be sucking up for. Tell my better.
Right. Yeah, no, I have a budget every month about what I'm going to blow on Blu-rays, and I try and make sure I stick to that. But But some months it's like it's very hard because you need to. I tell you what, I did pre-order because I know it's going to vanish in a flash. I know you're a bit of a fan of this movie. Is where is it here? I pre-ordered the Blu-ray of this guy.
Oh, Mortuary, yeah.
Yeah, I always loved the film on VHS. I mean, it was Bill Paxton. Anything with Bill Paxton's great. So, but I saw it. I missed out on the who was it originally? Was it Code Red or someone put it out originally?
Yeah, I think I read an edition of it.
I missed out on
Mortuary, and I think was it House on Sorority Rose coming out too. But
yeah, I've got the reissue because House on Sorority Rose came out a few times.
Yeah,
and I got the reissue version, which is one like I got this one, which came out like it was a double disc thing. So I got that edition from Scorpion.
I got that on DVD. I need to upgrade. See, I have an excuse to get the new one. I've just got the DVD. But right. Mortuary is such an iconic like poster. I remember going to the store, the video shop, and seeing the poster for Mortuary.
You remember who was in the trailer for Mortuary? It was one of those trailers that was created just for the trailer. There's no clips from the movie in it. It was just a trailer on its own. Yeah, remember Michael Berryman from Hills Have Eyes is in that trailer. He gets pulled into the ground or something by Anyway, it's on one of our Drive-In Delirium.
I gotta rewatch. I love concept. Like I told you before, I love concept trailers when they don't give away stuff. That's even better for me. I love going in blind.
Yeah, it's really, really fun. So I was on Diabolic the other night and just wondering what's coming up that I need to save for. So there's a few things I want to get. I want to get those 2 4Ks from David Gregory, the Severin things. I want to pick those up.
Yeah, I had those pre-ordered, and I had to cancel my pre-order at the time. But those are ones I really want. Have you been watching 30 Kinds?
No, what's that? I missed that.
It's by the director.
Is it right? I haven't seen that.
Apparently, I haven't got the chance to check it out yet, but everybody tells me it hooks you right away. It's apparently it's really amazing.
Oh, okay, cool. I'll have to put that on my list.
But I recently got HBO, so I'm definitely checking that out.
Oh, that's awesome. What other questions have people got for us, Aaron? How long have we been talking now?
Almost 2.5 hours, man.
How we spend
time flies.
It has, man. Can't believe people are still hanging around. I've bored them into oblivion. What was I saying? Do you think films are suitable for Dolby Atmos? Do you think all films are suitable for Dolby Atmos? Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, my top sound designer do Urban Legend and Valentine. So my sound team won Oscars for Ridley Scott's movie. They did Gladiator and stuff, so they would definitely be suitable for Dolby Atmos. And Storm Warning was mixed on the stage. It was it's now a Dolby Atmos stage, but it's at the sound facility here in Melbourne. It's by the guys who worked on Fury Road and stuff, and being mixed there and stuff. So they would sound wonderful in DTX or Dolby Atmos. I don't know if it's going to happen though. It'd be nice though.
You never know, especially now. Well, Scream Factory have been putting out redoing things there, John Carpenter's and stuff in 4K.
That's right. It's true. Yeah, the They Live in Prince of Darkness. So it's good to have that stuff in Atmos. Yeah, you never know. I would love to. I think Storm Warning would sound terrific.
Storm Warning would definitely benefit from it.
Yeah. Long Weekend's got a lot of surround work in it too, so that would be good. What else we got here?
And for those that came in late, by the way, Howlin' Wolf Records are putting up both of those soundtracks, and as well as Crawlspace, so make sure to check that out.
Yeah, they do great stuff, Howling Wolf. I mean, just some of the sort of reverse the cameras. It's Silent Night. I've been listening to it's the one I was in there before. Digging this one from the 80s.
I love it. Cool. I want Boogeyman 2 to come out on Blu-ray. Nobody
be good.
remembers that but me.
Yeah, I remember Boogeyman 2.
It was insane, man.
I might have it on DVD somewhere. It was really, really good. I remember the first time I saw that film, just this is bonkers.
There's a good question. What's your Okay. What's your favorite film that you've made?
Oh,
It's a hard one. Huh?
it's almost next to impossible because they I don't think of them so much as the finished movie. I just think about the experience I had making the movie. It's kind of hard for me to separate the two things. Um, so I couldn't say which one I enjoy. I mean, Urban Legend was great because it was the first one. So I mean, there was something about that whole experience where you're just pinching yourself, thinking, "Is this really happening?" And Silvio, the writer, and I were just like, "Can you believe that we're actually making a script and we're really making this movie?" It was kind of yeah, sort of surreal in all the best ways that we're actually getting to do it. I think I don't know, maybe just as the experience itself. Maybe it was Urban Legend and Valentine were the two most fun. Not that I didn't have fun at all on the other ones, but in a different way, a bit
Yeah.
more of a struggle. I had more time to shoot Urban Legend than I had to shoot Storm Warning and Long Weekend combined. So, there was a lot more resources at my disposal on Urban Legend.
Well, to come
And
in and do a first film and have like that level of talent, like both in front of and behind the camera,
yeah,
it's
it was
it's
crazy.
it's rare.
When,
And
when someone would say, "How do you want to shoot this scene?" I'm like, "Well, I'd love to do this. We, put a crane on a crane, and we'll come there all the way." I mean, no worries. That's what we'll do. I mean, I didn't have that luxury on any of my Australian films. It was like a struggle to get, aerial photography or whatever. It was a big deal to get that stuff in those movies. So, whereas, on Urban Legend, we had limitless resources to throw at things. So, well, not limitless, but, from where I was coming from my low budget world, it felt like limitless resources. So, yeah, no, I love them for different reasons. I love the experience of working with the actors and the crew, rather than so much the end result of the film. Yeah.
everybody wants to know if you're getting the Christopher Lee's Severance set.
Of the Christopher Lee Severance, I think I'll definitely pick that up. Yeah, for sure.
For the TV show alone, like this rare TV show.
I don't want to miss out on that stuff. So I love Chris Lee.
Oh, there's one from my better half, actually. Any women-made scripted movies that you can recommend or give a shout out to?
Yeah, well, like I said, Relic is one that I really want people to check out if they haven't seen it. It's brilliant, absolutely amazing film, and totally recommend it. Also, The Nightingale. If you're a fan of the Babadook, check out Jennifer Kent's follow-up film. It's brilliant.
I think that's fallen under the radar a bit too, which is a shame, actually.
Yeah, check it
But
out.
I really did like the Babadook.
Yeah, no, The Nightingale's really worth watching, and she's a major talent. Both those girls are. Yeah, definitely check out Relic though. Not the Peter Hyams one about the cryptozoology.
Very different films.
Yeah, nothing wrong with Peter Hyams' movie. It's just not the one I'm talking about. Yeah, Relic's really good.
And coming from Scream Factory, if it's not already out, actually.
I'm pretty sure it's Scream Factory. Yeah. Kubrick's asking me, what is the scariest movie I've ever seen? Well, I think that all depends on what age you are when you see the movie. It's like in recent years, I thought The Descent was one of the scarier films I'd seen. But at the time I saw Carpenter's The Fog and Halloween, when I was just like getting the first couple of horror films I saw, they made a massive impression on me and terrified the crap out of me. So I'd say those were the two scariest films that I've ever seen, but it was because they're great movies, but also when I saw them. Zach saying, keep me in mind if Rick Boder or Carl von Mollicone. I will, Zach. Thank you, my friend. Yeah, no worries. I appreciate that. It would be fun to do something with Zach. We follow each other on Twitter. Good guy.
There's been some incredible releases coming out this year. Is there anything that you're most excited about as a collector?
This year? You mean coming up, or has been released so far?
Coming up, well, both actually.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think ones that I've really enjoyed this year. I'll tell you what I did love, because it's a personal favorite.
Tremors, yeah.
It's just one of those films that it's so hard to do horror comedy right, and they nailed it on Tremors, and the practical effects work so much fun. They kind of incorporated CGI later on in the series, and I think you can really tell, like, there's just something wonderful about practical effects, and they got so much of that right with Tremors. Yeah, I think I'm just trying to think what's coming up on the radar. Remind me a couple of the things that are coming up, Aaron. I'm living up to my last name right now and just drawing a bit of a blank on what's on the horizon.
There's so much. There's I still want to get the Nosferatu in Venice release that Severin put out. Apparently, it's a great Todd Kinski documentary on there.
Documentary, not My Best Fiend. It's something else, is it?
No, a different one, a new one, a newly produced one, I think.
Because that was great, My Best Fiend.
Yeah, I got that on the I think was it Anchor Bay? Put the set, the Werner Herzog. Yeah, that's the one I got.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that sounds really fun. Now let me go to Diabolic and see what. I like that you've been doing a few website deep dives, Aaron. That's been kind of fun to see.
I loved doing those.
I'm trying to go through a website on one of your videos because it's kind of a bit more fun to the interactivity as you go through. I really enjoy that about your site. You know, people can tell I'm a bit of a physical media geek, and one of the things I really enjoy about your channel, Aaron, is the positivity about stuff. It's not about like, oh, what are the 5 movies you hate the most, and none of that stuff. You're much more about celebrating people's love of physical media, and I think that's really awesome. And that's one of the things I responded to about your channel when I first discovered it.
Oh, thank you. I honestly, I can't. It's not wired in me to be that. To get it. I think
you're a nice guy, man. It's got the Commonwealth thing going on. That's why you and I get along so well.
Do you ever watch movies at home on a projector?
I don't have a projector, but I do have a beautiful OLED screen with the full HDR 10 plus and Dolby Vision and stuff. So I love that. But I am thinking of getting a little projector, 4K projector down at the Holiday House down there. There's a wall there that I could actually like turn into a little screen. So I'm thinking of doing that. Not quite sure, but the longer you hold off on buying that kind of technology, the better off the technology you'll end up with, because that stuff's always improving all the time, and prices do tend to come down. So, but I haven't got it. Do you have a projector? Oh, Dead and Buried is what I'm looking forward to. That's the one I was trying to think of. Dead and Buried.
That looks amazing.
That's one of my full-time favorite movies from that era. I always loved the Dead and Buried poster, and there was a label called Roadshow VHS. Well, you'd know the Village Roadshow. You would know all those things they did with Warner Brothers. We used to have. Let me see if I can show you an example of it. Do I have any Village? Don't really have Village, unfortunately, but they used to have. Halloween 2 and Deadly Blessing and Class of 1984, all those films would come out through this Roadshow label. And Dead and Buried were one of those titles. And when I was just getting into renting VHSs when I was really young, Dead and Buried's one of the first ones that I rented. And I just remember loving the ending so much as a kid. Just how the whole thing was just such a great twist. I don't want to say anything if anyone hasn't seen. I don't want to spoil Dead and Buried for someone who might not have seen it yet. But good twist ending, and great movie. And it's still really scary. You know, there's some really scary stuff in that film. I'm really looking forward to seeing Blue Underground's release, because they do such beautiful 4K transfers. I bought Zombie and House by the Cemetery, and they look terrific in 4K.
It's amazing. Like, I have so many different versions of Zombie and House by the Cemetery. I recommend, by the way, if you're a fan of the film, I'm not sure if you are, but New York Ripper, it's like watching another movie.
Really? Because I thought the Blu-ray of New York Ripper looked already really, really good. So is the 4K that much of a massive jump forward?
Like, there's a video you can actually watch on YouTube which shows the Blu-ray and compares it to the 4K.
Right.
And it's insane. I mean, again, as a soundtrack person too, like Dead and Buried's gonna have the soundtrack with it, so that's always a plus there.
Yeah. No, I think it's an amazing film, and I'm a sort of bit of a Gary Sherman fan of all that stuff he did, Vice Squad, and what's the other, Raw Meat, Deadline, that was called, I think, in the UK one he did with Donald Pleasance. Really good director, Gary Sherman, and I think Dead and Buried's like kind of one of the best of that era. I'm a big fan. Actually, I'm always wondering why someone in the remake frenzy, I'm kind of glad they didn't, but why that wasn't one of the ones that got picked up.
Remade. Yeah, I can actually see somebody doing that.
Yeah.
I got to say.
Ron Shusett for a while, actually, on a project, and we talked a lot about Dead and Buried and Alien and stuff, and he's an amazing guy, Ron. So, sorry, what were you going to say, brother?
Oh, no, I was just going to say that, like, as far like as his films go, Vice Squad, for anybody that doesn't have it, there's an underrated release to pick up. It is packed full of stuff. It's insane the amount of stuff's on that release.
Mm.
It took me forever to get through it. Like, there's hours-long interviews for each of the actors and stuff, so you get it.
Wow, isn't it great when you get a stacked release like that? When you know someone really, really cares about the stuff they're putting out. I love that.
So both of these, but speaking of stacked releases, these are insane, the amount of features on this. And it goes, I love the fact that it goes right from like pre-production right all the way through.
Yeah, we Scream Factory approached me through a producer, young guy, Phil Escott approached me, and I've met up with him on Twitter recently. He's just made a really great documentary on found footage movies that's going to play at Fantastic Fest this year and stuff. But anyway, Phil got in touch saying Scream Factory were doing, at this point it was just Urban Legend, and would I be interested in participating in extra features? And I said I absolutely would, because in Australia, there had been a release of the Urban Legend trilogy come out through Viavision. They're the guys behind the new imprint label that guys would be aware of. And they were doing the Urban Legend trilogy. I've got it around somewhere. But it was just a real basic, bare bones release of the trilogy. And I said, look, I've got hours of videotapes shot on the set of Urban Legend that no one's ever seen before. I could put together a really amazing local release for you guys of Urban Legend. And they said, it's probably not going to be enough time before we go out. It was a little bit half-hearted. I'm like, all right. So we sort of sat on it. And I had those, I had those tapes in my collection. It was coming up on 20 years. It was 20 years when we did the Urban Legend Blu-ray for Scream Factory. So when they got in touch and said, would you be interested in putting together any extras for Urban Legend, I said, for sure, and let me put out the call to the cast and crew, because I was all really close with all of those for 20 years. We were all still friends, and I'll see how many of them wanted to do it. And to my utter astonishment, apart from Josh, who we couldn't track down, and Jared, who I just presumed wouldn't have been interested anyway, to my astonishment, everybody said they would love to participate in this thing. So I figured out I could probably come to the States for maybe 2.5 weeks. And then a couple of days after that, I heard from Scream Factory, this guy named Peter Bracke contacted me. He was writing a book on the post-Scream era of movies called Scary Movies. And I'd loved Peter's book on Friday the 13th, Crystal Lake Memories. And Peter said, can I have an interview? I said, of course, I'd love to talk to you. So we spoke to each other for a couple of hours, and it was one of those things where it was like talking with Adam and Joe and talking with you, Aaron. Now it's like just feeling of like we already knew each other, even though it was our first time kind of having a conversation. It was like that with Peter. And, he said, I'd love to speak to some other people involved in the movie. I said, well, your timing is absolutely brilliant. So I said, I've just come off the phone with Scream Factory and Eddie Samuelson, who was doing the extras. And so I'm coming to LA to interview the whole cast and crew for the Blu-ray. I said, I don't want to do the interviews because I don't want to have to be answering questions about the movie to the director. They should be talking to somebody else about the experience of the movie, because they're going to ask you about working with me, and I don't want you answering those questions to me. So I said, Peter's going to interview all you guys, and he's going to get material for his book at the same time. So we put that in place, and I started. It was a huge just production management job, just trying to get everyone's schedules to line up. And often I didn't have direct lines to some of the cast. I had to go through management and agents and everyone. So I've never really production managed anything in my life. I always had people do that for me. But for this 2.5 weeks, I had to schedule all the interviews and then find locations where we're going to do stuff. So Steve Merkovich kindly lent me his house, and Michael McDonald lent me his house for a day, and we're able to get a lot of people to come and meet there. And they became like mini reunions for us. It was really nice to be able to catch up with all these people after such a long time in person, you know. So we were starting to schedule this, and then I got a call from Eddie saying Scream Factory have just been able to secure the rights to Valentine as well, because they'd been trying to get that for a while, and Warner's had always turned them down for some reason. It was hard to get the rights apparently for that film. But when Scream Factory said, well, we're working with the director on his other releases, he's very open to doing stuff with us and creating extras for it, we think, you know, it's a really great chance for us to do a proper edition of Valentine as well. So that was brilliant that Scream Factory were able to do that. And then, so we ended up having this 2.5 week schedule where we were interviewing not just people from Urban Legend and Valentine, but Eddie needed to talk to people like Keith Gordon, who was doing some commentaries and stuff with Keith. So we just had this fantastic 2.5 weeks where we caught up every day, Peter Brackie and Eddie and I, with the crew and cast of my 2 movies, plus all these other people that they were talking to Kane Hodder and Sean Cunningham for the upcoming Friday the 13th box set at the time. They were banking interviews all over the place with people. So yeah, it became a really, really exciting couple of weeks where we just shot a whole lot of stuff for the release. Eddie found a copy of the Urban Legend trailer on eBay, an unopened 35mm copy of the trailer. So that was great. We were finally able to transfer that in 235 because no one could track down a proper copy of the trailer. So yeah, we lucked out with that. I recorded new commentaries on both movies. I recorded commentary with Don Coscarelli on Valentine, and it was great. We just made sure we packed the releases full of good stuff.
They put out such good stuff recently. And Scream Factory, where they're a bigger company than some of the smaller labels, they do tend to get like crapped on a bit by a lot of collectors, and I think it's a bit of a shame because they do put a lot of work into the stuff that they do, and there's a lot of films that got rediscovered because Scream Factory like were able to put them out, and just such good releases.
It's true, and I find and this is no diss against any of the collectors, but there are some really unreasonable demands, and it's really hard to find sometimes a more whiny bunch of guys than some of the dudes forums on Blu-ray.com.
I mean, I can't go on there very long.
The most insane stuff, and you're just thinking, what would it possibly? There's no way you could ever make these kind of people happy. If you announce that you've got all this great stuff, these are the kind of people saying, "Oh, shame that they didn't get Jared Leto." You know?
Yeah. I wonder what.
It's like the glass is half full kind of mentality versus the glass is half empty. And some of these guys on Blu-ray.com, it just blows my mind. I mean, I've stopped reading the forums there because it just, you know, not that it isn't fascinating to see which titles aren't a day one purchase for me, you know, from some people. Just like, really? You're not going to buy it on day one? Thanks for sharing it with me. Yeah.
Thank God we know that.
Yeah, look.
Now we can sleep better.
Now I can rest. Yeah, no, there is some real douchebaggery going on Blu-ray.com sometimes, but Scream Factory, I know, having worked with them, they're always trying to do their best. And, you know, some things are licensing problems with studios. Some things have to be cut because of legal departments insisting on things being cut. It's not always up to the label, and even though they're the ones that become the focus of the ire and the wrath of some of these people, these collector fans who like to complain a lot. It's not always the label's fault, and if they had a little bit more maybe understanding of how the process works behind the scenes, they'd be less likely to hang shit on Scream Factory, because the guys there really do a really great job. Their heart's in the right place, and you know, without some of these guys doing what they do, there wouldn't be a lot of these releases coming out. We'd be all a lot poorer for it without Scream Factory and Shout Factory. So yeah,
they've got the ball rolling. Scream Factory in North America, Arrow Video over in the UK, I think, really started a new renaissance of like companies, and we got stuff afterwards. Like we got Severin, Don May Jr. Snaps is highly underrated. He does some incredible stuff. Just so many good companies that are out there right now.
True. And I remember when Scream Factory launched, it was like they were coming out with special editions of Halloween 2 and 3, and that was like, you know, it was wonderful. I was so excited to see a label that were launching with those titles, and I think they've done amazing stuff. And you know, the budgets for the transfers aren't always like astronomical. Like I remember we were doing a transfer of Valentine, but Rick Boda really only had about 2.5 to 3 days to do the whole film. So, you know, it's a good transfer, but there aren't massive budgets for these Blu-rays. Shout Factory, the parent company, they operate, you know, with limited budgets for the extras and everything else. So I think what they're able to get bang for the buck for those budgets are pretty extraordinary. You know, it's very
And I think Shout Select, their sub-label, it doesn't get enough like credit either with the stuff they put out.
Yeah, it's true. It's really true. So, yeah, I always try and look at what's great about the releases rather than complain about, you know, what isn't there that I might have wished for. It's like we can all have our wish list of great stuff that we love, but you know, companies can only deliver what they can deliver, and you know, we're just so lucky there's so many of them. Someone's just put up Powerhouse Indicator. Love that label. I mean, incredible. You know,
some of the best box sets out
there. Labels run by people who truly love the format and the movies that they're putting out. Like the guys at 88 Films in the UK, or Don May at Synapse. Just awesome people who love the medium, love the movies, and pull out all the stops to give people the best possible releases they can.
I think by far and large, most of the labels right now, to be in the game at this point, you got to have people behind it that are loving it, and pretty much by far and large, the people that are still the labels that are still out there. There's a reason that those are that they're still out there.
That's right.
And it's because they're behind people that feel passionate about what's being done. From Arrow to 88 Films to Powerhouse Indicator, Imprint in Australia is a new one that I, you know, the Via Vista, right? Via Vision. They extremely Umbrella Entertainment, which I love the stuff. They're the only person to put out a Blu-ray of Punisher with Dolph Lundgren, and I'm super stoked about that. I need that.
Yeah, my buddy Ian Baker shot that movie. He's a great guy. I know you and we've been talking to Umbrella. We're trying to get, you know, more stuff happening with Umbrella in your channel on official capacity. So let's you know, I'm sure that's going to happen. So I'm really excited about that.
My fingers are crossed. They sent me a catalog, and I chose some releases. So fingers crossed. It just takes a while to get to Canada.
Yeah, that's right. Who are you dealing with at Umbrella?
My God, I'm so horrible with names. I'm not sure if he's at Umbrella right now, actually. I was working with, I can't see now because I'm on my screen. Yeah. We will sort it out later, but there's, I think it might be Ned who's dealing with that stuff at the moment, but I can certainly help jog them along if there's anything that, you know, is getting held up. I'll certainly. I think it's Ned that I spoke with, actually.
Yeah. I'm really excited that you're going to be able to do more stuff officially with Umbrella, because you're a great way to get this information out to the North American collectors, and you know, Umbrella are savvy enough to realize that that's a perfect kind of mouthpiece for that crowd.
Because when they put it there, I said, okay, I want to get, you know, this release here, which I know is going to be a popular release that people are going to like the Psycho Gorm and stuff like that, but I also wanted to look at the more Australian releases that I think deserve more of a look here, and I don't think that they do get enough like credit here in North America. That's one thing that I hope to do, is like just be able to like, okay, I'm excited about this. Hopefully, I can make you excited about it too.
Yeah, well, you're doing really well. I mean, you've done that so well for so many months since I've been following your channel. So I have no doubt that you'll continue to do that, my friend.
So hopefully, I've made you buy something.
I'm pretty sure you have steered me towards a few things. Definitely some Vinegar Syndrome titles.
Yeah, well, one of these days, hopefully, I'll get. People always think that I work for Vinegar Syndrome, but I don't. I just a fan of the company, like a lot of the other companies that I talk about.
Right.
But yeah, people. I always get that people tag me when they, and I don't mind actually. It's kind of cute. It's kind of nice. They tag me when they buy a Vinegar Syndrome release, so which is cool.
I think that's only a matter of time before we get that happening. They'd be crazy not to enlist your support for their label, man, because you've been one of their biggest proponents for a long time.
6 years now.
Yeah.
Would you ever make a YouTube channel? Ragman asked if you ever make a YouTube channel.
Oh God, no. There's not enough time in the day. No, not at all. I'm a busy man. I'm doing stuff constantly. I'm up till 3, 4 in the morning most nights. It's either music stuff I've got to work on, or I've got a multitude of things on. I don't know how these people who are working composers and stuff find the time to do a YouTube channel. It would just mean more work for me, and what I'm actually in the mood for at the moment is a little bit more free time and less time in front of the computer. So yeah, I spend a lot of my day in front of the machine, in front of the screens, and a YouTube channel is just not on the cards. I'd rather just come and talk on your channel, Aaron. That's much more.
You are welcome anytime, man. They have been enthralled this entire time. So
I'm amazed they can listen to my ramblings.
But I'm definitely, if you're up for it, I definitely want to have you back again.
Mate, anytime you want. I'm a big fan of yours, you know that, and I'm only a phone call away. Anytime you want me to come on, I'm more than happy to do it. Anytime you want.
One dude, right back at you, as being a huge fan of your work, which you know, and two, I'm definitely going to take you up on that. So just.
Mate, you've got unfettered access to me anytime you want it, brother. Anytime you want. You just say the word and I'm there. I'll be delighted to.
But I guess we'll wrap it up for now for the people. Leave them wanting more.
Yeah, I mean, if you want more after 3 hours almost of my rambling.
Yes, I've taken up half your day.
No, it's all good, brother. I was delighted to do it with you, and it's I've been looking forward to it for a long time, and I really enjoyed it.
I'm glad we finally got to get on here and talk. So everybody, this has been Jamie Blanks, an incredible director and composer, and also, as you found out today, an amazing storyteller as well. So we'll definitely have you on there again soon. And guys, I'm Aaron from the Call to Cinema. Have a fantastic evening. Buy some exciting Blu-rays that make you passionate for film. That's the most important thing. It doesn't matter. Like we don't have to like all the same things, but like Jamie, like me, stick on the positive side of it and get what you love.
Yeah.
Have a great evening, guys.
See you, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me on, brother.
Not a problem.
Cheers, buddy.